Cheers, y'all.
Well. Welcome, my friends, to yet another edition of Smoking a Toastin'. It's the little program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And we are here for show number 153 at the wonderful VIP Lounge at Casa de Monte Cristo by Serious Cigars, which, you know, when I was growing up was just Serious Cigars, but now it's part of the Casa de Monte Cristo chain. And our buddy Ken Wynn here is always kind enough to invite us to do the broadcast every once in a while. So we are thrilled to be here, and we prowled the humidor for smokes, and so we'll talk about those here momentarily. But first of all, welcome to show number 153. Welcome to our special guest, Jeremiah Butler, friend of the show. And,
that'll probably help.
And today we will also, I figured this is perfect since you're here, because they've announced the best whiskey in the world. So I'll be interested to see your reaction.
I doubt I'll have an opinion.
Yeah, I doubt it. Yeah, and
I've never known you to have an opinion. Actually.
And you
I've
know,
never liked
doing the show with Ian, you know, I always worry he's not going to want to weigh
true.
in.
It's
so I thought, what can we possibly do?
Yeah, no, this will be exciting. I mean, I'm intrigued.
So not only will we reveal what that is, but I'm also going to ask you guys what you like. What do you think is the best whiskey in the world? So something to think about.
So if I'm distracted for the entire rest of this episode, you know what I'm thinking about, right?
Yes, exactly.
The answer to the best whiskey is yes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Is there any other answer, really? Plus, the fascinating story, and I always think of you when I think of rums, even though I think, honestly, you're really more of a whiskey guy in my brain. Sure.
But
I always think of you with rum because you and I
sure.
have had some enjoyable rum experiences together.
The intense rum moments that bring us together.
Today, I'm gonna walk us back through how rum actually came to be.
Excellent.
Like, who first came up with the idea?
Yeah, this is a fun
for
story.
Rum. So we'll go through that, talk a little bit about that. Plus, AB InBev has passed on the purchase of the Craft Beer Alliance. We talked about it last week as being almost a done deal.
Right.
And they said, nope, we're not going to do it. So that's interesting. We'll pass that along to you. Plus, we have some very interesting beers to taste today. Abita Brewing's Strawberry Lager. I thought before we get out of summertime, we should absolutely taste the Strawberry Lager.
Any excuse to drink that beer is okay
absolutely.
with me.
Oh, yeah.
And we have something interesting from a collaboration from Matchless Brewing and Georgetown Brewing, both from the Seattle, Washington area, both very well-respected craft breweries. Mm-hmm. They got together and did a collaboration IPA called Juice Bomb Units.
I'm in for this.
I just like the title.
Juice Bomb Units IPA.
I have no idea.
Funny story, that was my nickname in high school.
Juice Bomb Units.
Well, certain parts of it at different times. I mean,
yeah, I had a similar nickname, but the NFL wouldn't let me put it on my jersey, so I quit. Also, and I didn't realize this until after we'd already had it scheduled, and then we were talking about you being able to be on the show. But the last time you were on the show, we were upstairs at B&B.
Yes.
And one of the beers that we pulled out was from Drake's Brewing. It was Island something.
Island Dreams.
And
it was amazing.
And we all went so crazy over it. Remember?
Yes.
It was part of the Advanced Oak series from Drake's Brewing, which is out of San Leandro, California. Well, today, coincidentally, we have another of that series from Drake's Brewing, Advanced Oak. It's the Advanced Oak Quint, the Belgian-Style Quintuple Golden Ale. Oh. And it's been subjected to, I like thinking of beers being subjected to aging, as opposed to, being gently aged. I think it's more like you get in there and age, damn it. It's been subjected to aging, just like all the beers in that series. So really excited because we all loved that last one so much. It's really one of the Island Diaries. Is that what it was called?
That's what it was.
Island Diaries.
And the cool sunglasses.
It had the cool sunglasses on the label, and it
absolutely.
was so good. I went home thinking, how can we get more of this?
Yeah.
This cover of a David Lee Roth album.
and I'm just going to go out on a limb today. You could listen to 100 other podcasts today, and on none of them will you hear the phrase "looked like the cover of a David Lee Roth."
That's right.
So this will be the only one.
That is true.
Anyway, Jeremiah, we're so glad you're here. We love talking.
Yeah, man.
We love talking all things cigars and whiskey and rum and craft beer with you. And of course, we are brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant. They are located at the Washington Ave location in Houston, 1814 Washington Ave. They're in the shops at Clear Fork and Fort Worth. And then, of course, we've got the family growing BB Italia on Memorial in Houston, BB Lemon, which is right across the street from B&B on Washington Ave in Houston.
Absolutely.
And then what else can you tell us? I don't want to push for things you're not supposed to talk about yet. But what else can you tell us?
I can definitely talk about Annie. So for anybody that doesn't know or is familiar with Cafe Annie, they kind of shut down. We're being remodeled recently. We took over as the managing partner. The Berg Hospitality Group did. Robert is still the executive chef and all that. We're just adding some components. But man, it was such a Houston institution. And
So
we wanted to
Cafe
kind of
Annie
just,
was thought of as like when you were
it
thinking
was
like
just-
you want to go to like one of the 2-3 best restaurants in the city.
Absolutely.
That one's always in the conversation,
country.
right? Yeah.
I mean, Robert Delgran, if I'm not mistaken, he was the first James Beard Award winner from Texas. Please don't skewer me if I'm completely wrong on that, but I know he is
I think
a James
that may be
Beard
true,
winner,
yeah.
But I believe so. But phenomenal food. I've gotten the chance to hang out with a lot of their guys more around the restaurant. It's going to be awesome. They've redone the place. They've put a bathroom upstairs, which is clutch. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and there's actually going to be, they've kind of split the space into two concepts. So you're going to have more of a dinner club downstairs, and then Annie Bar and Cafe upstairs. But it's us, so it's going to be big and busy and
That's great.
fast
I love
paced.
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was in
Lots of whiskey.
I was in B&B the other day. It was a restaurant week, and man, you were humming.
Yeah,
just like you are when it's not restaurant week.
Yeah. So it's such a great cause, and we've been the record setter for a long. It's going to be very difficult for our record to be topped,
Right.
except by us. So
Okay.
hopefully this year we break the 100,000 mark. Last year we donated about $97,000 to the Houston Food Bank. So
B&B
That's
was
awesome.
also.
Can you explain the restaurant week? Because we have some viewers that aren't
yeah,
here
so
in
Houston Restaurant Weeks, basically, there's about 130 restaurants that participate, and all these different restaurants put together prefix fixed price menus. Some are 2 courses, some 3, usually $35 or $45, and then of each menu, a percentage of that. I know ours is a 3-course, $45 dinner menu, and $7 of that goes to the Houston Food Bank. And if I'm not mistaken, that gets about 9 meals.
See, I love the transparency there, though. You
Yeah.
know exactly how much is
Yes.
going.
Yeah,
instead of going
absolutely.
a portion of the
Absolutely.
proceeds, which might be a lot, or it might not.
Here's
be.
a
Like,
thought to consider. Okay, if you're going to B&B, you're going to get a 3-course meal for $45, right? And you take $7 out of that immediately. You're paying $38 for an amazing,
Yeah, but when are you
like
gonna
an
get that kind of a meal for
absolutely
$38?
amazing meal.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
that's
it's,
crazy.
There's a reason that we're
Well,
packed
and
as
here's
a
the other
thing,
thing:
for
Houston
sure.
Restaurant Week is no longer a week; it's a month now.
Yeah,
right.
but
So
they
they
still
still
call it
call it.
week.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
still call it Houston Restaurant Week.
Well, technically, cleverly wised up a little bit, and it's Houston Restaurant Weeks, plural.
Weeks.
Yeah.
They snuck an S in on us.
Yeah.
But it's a great cause, and we're just it's awesome.
And a
It's-
lot of cities do this type
Man,
of thing. But
I love
Houston
taking
Restaurant Week
advantage
is
of it.
one of the better ones.
Yeah,
that
well,
I've
and
seen.
what I don't know that any other restaurant week in the country does it on the scale that Cleverly
Right.
has gotten this to. Like
Yeah,
she
that's
really has
impressive.
built this into an institution.
Yeah, that's impressive.
And people get to go out and try. It's not just B&B.
Right, you try things that you might not have tried otherwise, which is what's great about it.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, you
just
get to
for
go
the
to
consumer.
the absolute highest end restaurants in Houston, and there are many high end restaurants in Houston, and you get to go there for $35 to $45,
Yeah,
depending on
it's
lunch or
incredible.
dinner.
It's incredible.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is.
And you're supporting a good cause while you're
Yeah.
doing it. So
And
it's a win-win.
at the prices being that good, it leaves you some money to spend at the bar at
I was
B&B, where
just-
Jeremiah has
Right at the
got
end
a
of,
few
at the end of
interesting
your day.
items tucked away.
Yeah, it says, well, actually, we'll taste one later on in the show. That's like on the way the
Okay,
way to the bar.
perfect.
So
So
Awesome.
also coming up on the show, and also in relation to B&B Butchers and Restaurant, which was the location for the very first whiskey sniff. On this show today, we will be announcing the second annual whiskey sniff.
That's crazy.
Whiskey
I
Sniff
love that idea.
2019. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about it, Ian. I thought, looking back at it last year, it's like, well, what was it like? Well, we got a bunch of really cool people together. We had some cigars. We drank some really awesome drinks. Tried a lot of different pairings. Yeah, we should do that again.
Yeah. That was a blast.
It didn't take that long.
I was like back there.
Right?
Oh, it was a great deal of fun, and I know a lot of people, weren't able to be there or heard about it after the fact, and so we are going to be enlarging it this year. So
we're pushing it a little later in the year so that we get a little nicer weather.
Just a little bit.
It's a little warm, but it's going to be perfect.
It's
I'm
gonna be perfect,
really
so-
excited. We'll definitely go into
It's
top four.
awesome if it's like I wear a jacket and I'm comfortable weather. I love that.
Yeah. So
For sure.
So we'll get into that in the next segment and tell you about this. Obviously, tickets aren't on sale yet. This is the announcement, but we will tell you as soon as tickets are on sale. We'll let you know, and it won't be long. So,
No, not at all.
Yeah, won't be long. So, all right. So much going on. We are in Cafe Casa de Monte Cristo by Serious Cigars. So this is often, Ian, this would be the point in the show where I'd ask you what you smoked this week, but instead you're smoking now. So maybe you want to tell us what you got.
I went into that lovely humidor that they have, and one of the fun things about this is I always humidor shop anyway. I wander around the humidor and look around, but they have these two racks right as you walk in the humidor that are literally what's new. Mm-hmm. So you just walk in and you're like
the newest releases they've gotten
this,
in.
right?
Yeah,
the absolute
right.
new releases. So I saw this Monte Cristo Nicaragua series here, and this is the Churchill that I'm having. I don't know anything about it. It started off a little peppery. It's settling into a nice pepper and toast kind of flavor going on right now with a little traditional tobacco and a little earthiness. Then it's a great cigar so far.
All right.
I watched you. I was in the humidor with you this time, and I watched the Ian humidor routine because everybody kind of has one,
Yes.
and it's like the way you do the humidor,
Yes,
whether
yes.
it's scanning top to bottom, or maybe left to right, or so this is what Ian does. Ian goes directly, like beeline. Here at Casa de Monte Cristo for that end cap with the new releases on
Yes.
it, right? Studies them, looks everything over, and then he gently makes the circle all the way through the humidor,
This is 100% true.
arriving back at the new release end cap there where he makes his selection.
And it's about a 50-50 that something's coming off the end cap.
Right. Yeah,
You
you
know.
might pick something up on your way around, or you might get back there and see. So
And the other thing too is I didn't see any of the Southern Draw Cedrus in there. I almost always buy one of those when I'm here 'cause they're
that's such
so
a good cigar.
Like
And
I'm just
it's
props
such a
out
good
to that cigar.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was interesting and fun watching you. I chose something that I had not tried. This is the Romeo and Julieta by Aging Room, and so Aging Room has really developed a great reputation for themselves, and there's this very interesting trend going on right now with the bigger names in cigars, the Monte Cristos, the Romeo and Julietas,
Certainly.
the H. Upmans. A lot of these brands are kind of like revitalizing themselves and trying to become more current and relevant, even though they're some of the biggest names in cigars.
Do you think this is much like the pop music phenomenon where everybody was like, it's this artist featuring some other
I
artist?
think it's exactly like that.
Like
Yes,
for
I
years.
do.
I think we can thank Santana for that.
I think Santana
that
was-
Supernatural
yeah,
album was like
exactly.
the first one of those. Really,
Right, exactly. Would you have bought the Rob Thomas album for Smooth? No, but I sure am glad I have the Santana album that's got it on there.
that is an oddly great album.
This is going to a dark, dark place.
But what a lot of the major cigar brands have done is they've teamed up with some of the hot up-and-coming names. AJ Fernandez.
Sure.
Yeah, AJ Fernandez doesn't sell nearly as many cigars as H. Upman or Monte Cristo, but bringing his name and having him do a blend for them gives them a new energy, gives them a new little lease on life, gets them to maybe begin to attract a consumer that has kind of begin to think of them as an older brand.
Right, right.
Yeah, I've had that, I've tried that, I'm looking for what's
we
new.
all fall victim to that. Like
Yeah.
we see that same brand all the time. We don't
Right.
always pick it up because it's a known factor.
Right,
It's not because it's bad.
I can always get Monte Cristo,
But I can always try it. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So that's part of it. But I also have to point out that if it follows music trends, like now this cigar is this cigar featuring this other blender,
It gets
the
confusing.
next trend that's going to happen is this is this cigar, and then it's going to have a list of about 7 or 8 blenders on there.
Right.
So it's a blend
the
of
song,
blenders.
Yeah.
like the song rating credits nowadays have
Yeah.
like 9 people on it.
So can you imagine what that would be like? Like you get all the blenders together and go, okay, you bring a Nicaraguan tobacco, You bring a tobacco from Honduras.
Right.
You bring something from the Dominican Republic. We'll put it all together and see what
Yeah,
happens.
you bring the wrapper.
Yeah, right.
I like it. You bring the wrapper.
Yeah, you're important. You bring the wrapper. So this one, anyway, is the Romeo and Julieta by Aging Room. An Aging Room, certainly one of those up and coming. More around the brand name than a
Quattro
person.
We've mown through a few boxes of those Quattros. Yeah,
the Quattro is fantastic. All of the Quattro line I've tried are fantastic. So this one has started out very nice. Now I will say I started it and then we started the show and then I had to relight when it picked it back up, which worried me a little. Because I was thinking the draw might be a little tight, but it does seem to be fine now that I've been able to pay attention to it for a moment. So, loving the flavor on this. It's big, it's earthy, it's got that sort of pepper blast. I don't know what the tobacco configuration is on this, but it sure is hitting me like Nicaraguan. So, we'll see.
All right.
We'll check it out. So, what are you smoking there, my man?
I am smoking a Monte Cristo Habana Torpedo.
See, there's one in every crowd. I just have to say that.
Gotta be. He's that guy.
Hey, man, I'm lucky. And I don't get to smoke cigars as often as I'd like to, so
Right.
I try and...
So you try to optimize the situation?
I try to. But actually today, before you actually... I'm actually going to move to this one next, but I had originally planned... I actually brought a small batch Monte Cristo Torpedo that is not Habana and was going to do kind of a side-by-side.
Kind of like what do you call that? A
vertical.
A vertical. Thank you.
There
That's
you
the
go.
word.
But I think
thinking.
vertical's year to year. But maybe that's the same.
But
Right?
still,
Pepsi Challenge? Is Pepsi
Pepsi
Challenge still a thing?
Pepsi Challenge.
Which one is New Pepsi?
Yeah, right.
Or Pepsi
I
Clear.
actually talked to one of my
Clear. I think
Clear
there were
Pepsi.
3 of
Speaking
those.
of Van Halen,
I think 3 of those. Sold.
right now that was a great commercial.
That was a Clear Pepsi.
That was the Clear Pepsi commercial.
Right.
Man.
I hadn't thought about that.
But I actually had somebody young that is going to show. I felt so old because they asked me. They were like, "Wait, there was a second Coca-Cola," and I had to explain. Yes, that's why there's Coca-Cola Classic on the label of Coke.
Right.
It's because at one point there was New Coke and there was like a soda revolt.
So where do you line up on the conspiracy theory on this? Because so the official story is Pepsi was winning these challenges when they would go do blind taste tests.
I remember all those
They
commercials
kept beating
all the
Coke,
time,
right?
yeah.
They would beat Coke, and generally the reason was because the original Coke recipe was not as sweet as Pepsi. So when you're in a blind taste test situation, you're sitting there with the two of them. The sweeter one probably comes across to your palate a little better, especially
if you try the not sweet one first.
Right,
That's a little
exactly,
hint, right?
exactly. So let's say you do that. Pepsi's winning, so Coke thinks we've got a problem. This is the official story. And so they basically relaunch their flagship brand with a sweeter recipe. Then there's an outcry from the people who loved the old brand. Based on the response to the outcry, they re-released Coca-Cola Classic. It goes back to being the undisputed #1 selling soft drink beverage, and what may have looked like Pepsi won the battle turned out to really be Coke winning the battle. That's the official story. The unofficial story is that Coke did it to increase market share, that the whole thing was a plan the whole time because they kept the new Coke on the market for a number of years. Yeah. And there's actually some speculation now that there's other products in their line that may actually be the new Coke. It's just labeled something different. But anyway, the whole idea basically was that if you believe the conspiracy theory, that Coke did it on purpose. What do you think?
I mean, those guys are smart. They're really good at making money, and marketing is definitely like a thing where being coy and especially creatively deceptive is very, very.
Still, it's a big risk.
It is a huge risk.
To tank your flagship brand.
I do want to point one simple thing out.
Yeah,
I actually like Pepsi better.
Do you really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Pepsi's great. Actually.
I do.
See, I'm a Dr. Pepper
And
guy.
if I drink Pepsi, I like it cold, in a glass, no ice.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Well, soft drinks in general.
Have you seen at HEB? They have the little Mexican Pepsis.
No, I haven't seen
They're not cheap. They're like $1.29 a pop, but they are amazing.
Awesome.
I have 4 of them in my refrigerator right now.
It's different sugar, right?
Well, the thing about the Mexican sodas is they use actual sugar, not
Right.
high fructose corn syrup.
Right.
So that's
it's got
why
a
the
different
Media
flavor to
Litros,
it.
the Mexican Cokes, taste infinitely better.
Well, my last trip to Mexico, I actually found something I hadn't found before, which was Dr. Pepper Light, which is the
Yes,
Mexican version of
like they don't have Diet Coke.
Oh, wow. I
It's
never even
Coca,
seen that.
Coca Light.
Coca Light, right. But I found that for the first time, so I was very, very excited. So, okay, somehow we've become soft drinks and toast.
Yeah, this
So let's...
is strange. All right, I need whiskey.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Booze,
we need
now.
we need to start talking booze, and we need to do it quick. So we'll be right back with our next segment, which will do a little beer tasting and maybe even start talking about the best whiskey in the world. It's smoking, bubbling, and toasting, and we'll be right back. And welcome back. It's show number 153 for the podcast known internationally as Smoking and Toasting. We're all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We're brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant, 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. Bacon, 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 bacon. That's
Prestige worldwide.
We've come up with that as the slogan, by the way, for your restaurant.
Bacon, bacon, bacon.
Bacon, bacon, bacon. Yeah. So sometimes we just identify you and say, bacon, bacon, bacon. And no one has tried to correct us.
Hey, Cruz, watch this.
Bacon.
Okay. Wow. Even when we're on location, ladies and gentlemen, we may not have as many cameras, but the sound effects have their same high-tech, low-tech authenticity. Yes, which I love. Ian has opened up, and I think we're all very thirsty. Ian has opened up the Abita Strawberry Lager, which is the first beer that we're going to be sampling here on the show. Now, I will say, strawberry beers kind of run the gamut for me. They're either very, very good
or very bad.
Very, very not so much.
I find that to be the case with most of the fruit-driven beers, though.
Yes.
Like the Sam Adams, for example. I don't know if you've had the cherry wheat. Mm-hmm. Really, really cool if you're barbecuing.
Yeah.
But it's a very specific application.
Yeah, right.
And the first time I ever had a fruit beer that I didn't hate was actually a bit of the Purple Haze with the
Purple Haze, okay.
the raspberry
Right, and that's
kick to it.
That's a very intense sort of a beer, too.
Absolutely.
It really is. So,
But you know what I mean? Great food beer.
Yes,
So I tend
yeah.
to drink beer mostly when I'm eating.
Right. It just depends how I drink beer mostly when I'm doing dishes, but that's a complete other other thing.
The biggest problem I find with fruit beer is a lot of people tend to make it super sweet.
Right.
Add
And
sweetness
beer is
to
just
it.
not
It doesn't
meant to
need
be
to be that
sweet.
sweet.
Right.
Beer can be inherently sweet, like barley wines and things like
Sure.
that. But it's a
It's
totally
a
different kind of sweet. Yeah,
sweetness,
totally
yes.
different kind of
Yes,
sweet.
absolutely
So the
is.
bottom line is, it's hard, I think, to balance. Let's make a beer that has the essence of this. Now, strawberry, if it's done right, I think can be done really well because strawberry is not inherently that sweet.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually
There's a tartness
It's
to it,
actually very
acidity.
tart. So
Well, there's a reason that so many of the fruit-oriented beers or beers that have fruit aromas to them have a tendency to start in the citrus area.
Certainly.
You've got your lemons,
This
you've got your your orange, your blood orange, your grapefruit, and so on.
This is kind of delightful, actually.
Kind
It's
of delightful.
Kind
I
of
like that.
delightful.
I like that.
So
you're familiar with this already,
Absolutely. Yes.
So I want to say hi to Fred over at Maduro's. He's just logged on.
aren't you? What's up, Fred?
Howdy, Fred.
So this, I like these sparkling waters with flavor. Not
Yes.
sweetness with flavor. This is like a strawberry version of that for beer. This
Right.
has the strawberry effervescence to it and the flavor, especially on the retro hail. But it's very beer.
I think they nailed
very
this
good.
one.
This
I think
is
they nailed
fantastic.
this
Well, I
one.
think
Yeah.
one of the keys to this one is it's really, really bright from a carbonation standpoint.
Yes.
Yes.
So you
And
get that
sometimes-
really, really bright sort of mouthfeel to it.
And that doesn't always work, but in this case, it does.
And it's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
it tastes like summer. Like,
Wow.
It's
and that's one of the reasons I wanted to do it is since we're
It's not.
we're
it's,
trending towards September here, so
It's not perfumey either. It's
No.
very
Good
much,
way to say it,
It's,
yes.
it's very much like
because that was always the thing that
strawberry
turned me
scent.
off in the earlier days of fruit beers, before all the citrusy IPAs started
even before you
coming
get
out.
it to your nose.
Right,
It's like, whoa,
right.
what's
Yeah,
happening?
there's so much of that, sort of sickly
Yeah.
sweet, sort of fruit
Well, I think,
vibe. But this
and-
is not that way at
and
all.
kudos definitely to Sam Adams, but I think that's what cherry wheat suffered from. Cherry wheat was too sweet. I'm not a big fan of it, and I like a lot of Sam Adams beer.
The,
But
the problem with the cherry wheat was it was if I'm not mistaken, it was a beer that was a seasonal that they took permanent, like full
Right.
release. 'Cause
Yeah.
It used to be like a double cherry bock or like a
Right,
double cherry
right, right.
lager that you could
Uh-huh.
only get like for like a month or two out of the year. Mm-hmm. And then I remember being really excited when I saw the cherry wheat, and it's just you can drink like if you're out at the grill and it's really hot, I can get one down. They're nice. But I think by the time you get to that second beer, it's just
this I
I
don't
could
think
drink 6 of these.
I don't think this suffers from any of that. This is a delicious beer with some raspberry flavor to it.
6 of these.
Well, right.
This is is this
I do
is this
have
a
the
seasonal juicy ripe Louisiana strawberries
I believe
harvested
that it is a seasonal, yes.
at the peak of the season? Give this crisp lager its strawberry flavor and aroma. Abita strawberries made with Pilsner and wheat malts, traditional hops, the finest Louisiana grown strawberries, resulting in a light gold lager with subtle haze.
Wow.
This they nailed it. They did great. 4.2%, very sessionable. It looks the wrapper looks sweeter than the beer is. This is
It gives you like a sense that it would be more like a soda.
yeah, it gives you a little bit of that, but it almost a classic soda kind of look on it.
I will say that this beer also does something really interesting that not a lot of you know that feeling that you get when you've had a beer that you really like and you take that last swallow and you go, yeah, I would really love another one. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this beer has that. But it also has a different sort of, I really want another one, which is the kind that you get when you have a nacho cheese Dorito. You do it, and you go, I really want another one. It's a different
It's got
kind
snackability.
It's a different yeah, you want it. You want another one for a different reason. There's wanting another beer because another beer sounds great, and that was really good.
Indeed.
And then there's that flavor-driven.
Yeah.
I want to taste that flavor again. And so this beer has both of those things, which could make it extremely dangerous.
Chris, after all that, if you do not have another one of these Abitas in that bag, we're going to have a problem. I know we have other beers to try, but
Yes.
I
Well,
feel like you're messing with my emotions.
2 words for you here, my friend. Advanced oak.
Advanced oak.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the Belgian Quint that we'll be trying later on in the day.
I'm looking forward to that.
We will be talking rum. Appleton Estate Rare Blend, 12-year Jamaican rum.
Excellent.
We'll be trying that on the show. And I know we have some other rum things to talk about,
Certainly.
the two of us. But I thought maybe this would be a good time for us to just go ahead and get into this best whiskey in the world. The award has been given out. It is
That's a big throwdown.
Now, do they
Best
have like
whiskey
the
in
top
world.
5, or they're just boom, this is the one?
I believe that they did, but in the article that I'm looking at here, this is just talking about the winner.
Okay.
And it is, I'm just trying to get to the easiest part of this to read. It is significant because for the first year, I believe, it's, okay, I wanted to make sure I knew exactly what we're talking about. This is the World Whiskey Trophy winner at the International Wine and Spirit Competition.
Okay, so San Francisco.
So,
It's-
yeah,
it's
so
the
it's
Olympics
legit.
of spirits.
Right, it's
yeah.
the
Right,
Olympics
right.
of spirits. It's just totally legit. So the winner of best whiskey in the world, Redbreast 12-year-old single pot still Irish whiskey. It
That's a good
scored a
whiskey.
remarkable 98 points to take home the highest honor in the competition. And
Well, at least those guys at Jameson got one thing right.
yeah, Irish whiskey apparently did really, really well in general.
Absolutely.
This year.
Irish whiskey has had kind of a resurgence.
But this is, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is the first time an Irish whiskey has been named best whiskey in the world
to my knowledge,
in this competition.
Quite possibly.
So
the only thing I can think of, maybe it's somewhere down the line, Middleton possibly was in there.
maybe, yeah.
But it's definitely the first of note, and the first I would say accessible. People
Yes.
know this whiskey. People, it's
Middleton Very Rare Barry Crockett Legacy and Jameson Cooper's Crows were also both honored.
excellent.
I haven't
so-
tried that one.
Yeah.
The
Have you tried
Cooper's
that?
Crows
Yeah.
is good.
Haven't tried that.
So talk to me about it. Have you
It's
had
actually the notch in the
have you
barrel
had
head
this-
is what the Crows is, where the barrel head seals the barrel. So all the
Gotcha.
staves are like this, and then there's like the little
Right, the little notch
divot,
around the top, right.
and they hit the barrel head, and that little groove is the Crows. The Coopers
okay.
Crows.
See, you learned something
Cooper
new on
knowledge,
this show.
you never
You
know.
learned something new on this show. It's good. It's
Shout
good.
out to Balvini for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for the trip to the Cooperage.
So Redbreast 12-year-old single pot still. Have you had this?
Absolutely.
And what do you think of the? What do you think of it being the winner?
I think it's cool. I definitely think that I'm a huge fan of this style of whiskey winning because
Right.
I love the idea of the single pot still, where you've got these guys making whiskey the old way in
Right.
small amounts and cutting the heads and tails and redistilling those, and it's a beautiful thing. As far as my own personal preference, I think I'm again like it's a little on the smooth side. I tend
So
to.
you're looking for a little more bite.
I like Sting. I don't think there's anybody that's ever watched me on the show would know I got the mad palate. But I think that style winning is very important, and I think it's a cool feather in the cap for them, man.
So guys,
we definitely sell a fair amount of it. So.
I feel like there's a question coming up.
yeah, let's put the question to you, and let me just, rather than just saying what do you think is the best whiskey in the world, let me frame it slightly differently. Okay, you've had bad news and good news. The bad news is you're going to be shipwrecked on an island for a little while. Just you, nobody else there. The good news is there's a supply of food and water, and also shipwrecked right next to you is a supply boat carrying cases and cases of whiskey. Thing is, if you got to pick that whiskey, in other words, this is your desert island whiskey. One whiskey for you on the island to sustain you as much as you want, but money's no object because it's shipwrecked there. So it's not like you have to worry about what you paid for it, right? The best whiskey in your world that you would want to be your island mate.
Okay, wait. I have a caveat question. Is this island an island that receives allocations?
Oh, yes. Allocations are available on the island.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure.
In fact, the boat could have been headed for an allocation location.
Yeah, because I'm like, 'cause I was about, you say Blanton's, and you're like, and you can't even get it there.
Well, right.
You're just like an amazing double whammy.
That would have been a good joke, but no, it's
all right.
No,
all
if
right.
if it's Blanton's, you can get it there, and you got a ship full of it.
Okay, well, it's not Blanton's for me, so
Okay.
Although that's great whiskey.
it is great whiskey.
Okay, so that's a tough one.
Yeah, it is.
'Cause
It's like naming your favorite child, or your favorite niece or nephew. Or
I
whatever.
have 3 to 4 that pop up in my head immediately, and it'd be hard to choose between them. So, just to run down my 4, that would be the cask strength Whitmeyers.
Okay.
That's so chocolatey.
It is. That is a great
so
bottle,
good.
and it's local.
so
That's
good.
fantastic.
And that one would be tough to beat, except for the fact that there's the Glenfiddich 14.
Phenomenal release.
So
Bourbon
good.
barrel the whole time.
So good, so good. And then there's the Signet. And then there's
The Magic Glenmorangie Black Barley.
yeah, that one's so good.
It is. I have about 3 ounces of it left sitting in my house, and I'm just trying not to drink.
That's right. You got to covet the last little bit of it. Let's just stick with those 3.
It's a great desert island, though.
That's
And
that's a tough one.
stylistically,
So you're already cheating by going with 3.
Right?
but
No,
true.
I'm not going with 3.
So you're going to narrow it down.
I'm whittling it down, and I would have to say, out of all those, and money's no object. That's
Yeah, so it's not about the dollars, but it
Glen
does.
Scotia's
But that
so
doesn't
good.
necessarily mean you want the most expensive whiskey you can get.
no,
It's true. It's
out
true.
of all those, I think,
And oftentimes the most expensive is not
if
necessarily
I was
the
going
best.
for a daily flavor profile that I think I would enjoy, that would go with most foods that I would have to kill and cook over a campfire.
Yeah, so it might need to go with squirrel and duck.
Right. And
What kind of island is this? I was thinking seafood.
Well, seafood too. Yeah, I'm
and
assuming
crab and everything
you could
else.
rig a net and
Well, yeah, but I mean, you kill all the duck.
I think right now, to my palate, I'd probably go with the Whitmeyers, the cast strength, because I just love that big, bold chocolate.
big chocolate, yeah.
I love the huge, the bite from it. It's huge. It's like 120 proof.
Yeah, no, it's a
That's
big whiskey.
crazy,
It's a big
yeah.
whiskey. It's good stuff, man.
So I think I'd have to go with that right now, but that Glenfiddich is right behind it. That 14 just makes me so happy.
It's true.
So, all right.
It's
See,
all
this is-
you.
This is how you stump an expert, by the
Right?
way.
I
You
will,
paint
one.
him into a corner.
well, so for me, like I'll probably narrow it shorter because I could go on like a much crazier, longer list. But I would probably say if I was gonna just to throw my American whiskey into the category, it would probably be Booker's.
That's a good one.
Nice.
It's everything about it. It's small. It's history. It's high proof. It's sharp and angry. And again, it goes great with campfire smoke. And then single malt wise, I would probably say Honestly, probably the Balvenie 15 single barrel. All 15 years in the sherry, so it's got that really aggressive, dark color, lots of chocolate and fig, and it's a little bit more kick to it than a typical. In fact, I'm just going to call it. I'm going to say that's the one.
That's the one?
It's got that kind of hard
Nice.
oak astringency to it at the
Yeah,
end. It's really good.
that's the one because it's going to hit all my flavor profiles that I like from sort of the angry bourbons. So yeah, I would say I'll narrow it to the one. I'll say the Balvenie 15 single barrel. That's my desert island whiskey.
Now, I will say I've not had as much experience with whiskeys as either of you guys. So I only know what I've tried and what I've liked and enjoyed. But I will say that I have about one more pour of a bottle of Little Book.
I have
at home.
about that much left,
That-
too, and it's so good.
That is so good that it almost has to make the discussion.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah.
Not to be a copycat, but the Signet. Wow.
Yeah,
Sure.
Signet's so
That's
good.
just fantastic. And then it was a while back, but it was upstairs at B&B that I was honored to be able to try the Balvenie 30.
Oh, yeah. That was pretty amazing.
And, you know, if it's one of those money is no object things, that could certainly enter the conversation because that...
Jonathan Wingo would be proud of you for saying that.
Yeah.
He's been
Yeah.
saying that that's one of his desert island whiskeys for years.
Really? So I don't know. I think, honestly, I would probably, though, pare it down to the Signet.
No, that is a great.
That is
a
so
great
good, yeah.
choice.
Yeah.
It's funny because, like,
And just the process of how they make the Signet and shutting down the whole distillery and then shutting it down again, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's just one of those. You just feel you feel so like almost like transported when you're tasting it.
Absolutely.
Like it's not just this is a great tasting whiskey. It's an experience.
Yeah, you're somewhere else with
and,
it.
right,
It's
and
beautiful.
that's what I love so
I
much.
feel
about
like that one's made it into the struggle on all of our choices there. We
There's
might
a
have
reason.
to have Dan come in and bring some.
I think that wouldn't
I think
be a
we could
terrible
probably- we
idea.
could probably figure
I
that
think
out.
that wouldn't be a terrible
We can
idea.
figure that out.
All right. We're also, I will tell you this, we don't have a confirmation yet, but we will be working to get Dan to be in attendance at the next Whiskey Sniff.
If he's in town, I think with the enough notice, which we have, I think we'll be able to have Dan in attendance. We'll,
All right.
we'll have a lot of great.
That'd be
So coming up
great.
in our next segment, we will announce the Whiskey Sniff, give you the date. You can start holding it on your calendar, and we'll tell you how to be among the first to grab your tickets because they went fast enough last year, and then the word spread.
Yep.
So I have a feeling this year it's going to go way faster even than last year did. So you're going to want to be early is what I'm saying in terms of getting your tickets
Yeah,
for the
and
Sniff.
the portfolio is
Oh, my God.
much better this year.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
not that it was bad
It
last
was
year.
great
just-
last year.
It's
Yeah.
just bigger.
It's just
this year.
expanded, yeah.
You're going to want to be there longer this year, is
Indeed,
what I'm saying,
indeed.
because in order to try everything.
And,
Plus,
and
we've
if you weren't there last year, there were a few other things other than just whiskey.
yes,
Certainly.
yes, and that was that will be the case
To
again
be
this year.
well-rounded.
In my with my penchant for all things weird, there will always be a little oddball table.
All right,
for
so I
sure.
tell you what we'll do. We'll jump into that news. We'll jump into another beer. This time it'll be the Juice Bomb Unit IPA.
Juice Bomb Unit.
Juice Bomb Unit. What? I bet you've still got like T-shirts and stuff with that on it from when you were in school.
Oh yeah. No, it's like a yearbook full of comments.
Yeah. Hey JBU.
Most
what up?
people just call me Juice Bomb for short, or
Yeah.
units.
So we'll get into that, and
units?
They
I
call
think
me
I think
Juice.
I definitely brought us this Appleton Estate rare rum to try, but we've also got. I also see some spirit bottles hiding over there beside you, Jeremiah.
Yeah, we got a couple cool things down
All
here we
right,
might
so
check
Somebody
out.
brought a little
so
something.
we'll jump into this. It's Smoking and Toasting. Thank you guys so much for checking out the show. We'll be right back. And welcome back, my friends. You are checking out Smoking and Toasting. It's show number 153. We got Jeremiah Butler. We're talking best whiskey in the world. And now we're going to talk a few other things, including some Collabroation IPA, maybe a little Aquavit. We'll get back to these cigars and how they're performing. But, guys, I wanted to update you on this whole AB InBev. They have now passed on something we were virtually certain that they were going to do, which was to purchase, and they had the rights to do, to purchase the rest of the Craft Brew Alliance. They already own shares in the Craft Brew Alliance, and there's a number of good reasons they could have gone ahead and done it and figured it out. Instead, they chose to pay, and this is the way the contract was written, that if they didn't complete the purchase, that they would pay $20 million to the Craft Brew Alliance as required by the commercial agreement that they signed back in 2016. Craft Brew Alliance says it will hold a press conference on September 5th to discuss what it will do from here. From a stock point of view, the shares in the Craft Brew Alliance are down like 15% after it was announced this is not going to go through, which the way I look at it, if you want to buy craft beer shares, might be a good time to buy, because this Craft Brew Alliance represents some great beers. I mean, Kona, there's so many great beers in this alliance, and I was really, to be honest, very bummed about them becoming AB InBev products. I was just, my wife and I went out and went to Papacito's the other night because we love the fajitas there, and I was just talking to the bartender. I was like, why does, and I know the answer, but I ask bartenders this anyway just to kind of get them riled up. Why does AB InBev own all the spots, not just on your taps, but on your
every single one of them?
Right. It's like, we were talking about it. Why are there 5 Karbach products and 1 St. Arnold?
Yeah.
Like, that's not representative, if you're in Houston, of where things are. I can understand having Karbach products. I get it. I would have them. They make some very good beers.
Absolutely.
I have a friend of mine that was helping out with one of the local bars up on Washington a couple years ago, and I happened to be privy to the discussion, and the bar manager goes, well, we've got like almost 20 taps. And my friend was looking at the list, and he goes, you have nothing.
Yeah.
Everything you have is AB InBev, every single thing on here.
Right.
And Sam Adams, which is awesome.
And
but
thank
that's
God for
one.
Sam Adams. Yeah.
I mean, really, every single thing else is just that. Like, you have nothing.
No,
this
you're
is
right.
not a craft beer.
And again, it's not that the products are all bad. The craft products that they bought are pretty good products, But I am personally not a big fan of Hopadillo. And there's so many places like a Papacito's, which is what I would call a nice chain restaurant.
Yeah.
They're not. It's not a cheapy place. It's not it's not a round robin or whatever. But
that's just a regional chain too.
Yeah,
That's not. That's not
it's just a
this area.
regional chain. But a place like that is going to have maybe 6 or 7 taps, and then they're going to have a cooler with a whole bunch of cans and bottles in it. So even if your taps don't excite me, you ought to have something in there. They used to have Lagunitas IPA. They don't stock it there anymore. Instead, they go, we got Hopadillo. That makes me a little sad.
Is it that it's just easier for them to go, okay, well, we just make this one order to this one place?
Well, I think it's easier.
Is that how it works?
But I also think it's
is it
probably more
lazy bar manager, or is it?
But yes, I think in many cases, I'm going to go with
uninformed.
But no, I mean, so in that department, because like for example, like I have 2 IPAs, and unfortunately now they are both AB InBev, but it didn't used to be the case. I had the Goose Island,
right,
and then Hopadillo.
But at least Goose Island is something slightly different,
certainly,
and I like their IPA.
But I don't carry any draft beers at all.
Right.
Just because as a steakhouse we just don't sell a ton of beer.
But I've had some very interesting beers.
I was going to say, but that's the thing. I try.
Maybe they weren't IPAs, but some really interesting beers.
And you want to have, like, for me, like I have a pretty decent like Texas representation. Like you have to have Shiner. But,
of course.
Like I've got like the Guns N' Oil Lager or like the Bombshell.
Okay, there you go. Now
Bombshell Blonde.
Yeah,
Bombshell Blonde is delicious.
The St. Arnold Lawnmower.
Right.
So like, I try and have like sort of a shotgun spread of Texas, as opposed to just like, oh, I'm in Houston, so I'm gonna have all Karbach and St. Arnold.
Right. See, it seems to me though
or
that
Eureka
there
Heights
must be there must be though some financial incentive behind.
Oh, 100%. There's people
where it's cheaper. Just even if it's just the bulk buy discounts that you would get. I'm not even suggesting
9%
anything
off
underhanded.
the cost if you buy X number of cases from me.
Right, exactly. So you're like, okay, I'll do my IPA, I'll do my blonde ale, I'll do my, it's easy to check those boxes. I'm not going to name the restaurant because I still like them and have a lot of respect for them. But there's a restaurant here in Houston I've been to a number of times, and I would put them in the Cafe Annie category. This is a very high-end restaurant.
Gotcha.
And they have, in their downstairs area where the bar is, they have a slightly more casual menu, still a little pricey, but good. And they only have 4 taps. Actually, I think now they have no taps, but at the time, They had 4 taps. It was at this place that I first tasted Lone Pint Yellow Rose IPA, which to this day is just it's just fantastic. I couldn't believe actually how great it was, and I tasted it there for the first time. Then I went out and found out about it. We subsequently had it on the show. We've had the Lone Pine people on the show, all of that. Not only do they not have it anymore, but their beer selection has gone to absolutely more than predictable. And because I still go there, but I always give them a hard time about it. I go, hey, I'm a customer. I'm going to tell you if you need some help. But after asking a fairly friendly waiter some questions, I found out that they used to have a guy who was in charge of curating their beer selection, and then they decided they didn't sell as much beer as they did wine and other things at this particular restaurant, so they stopped using that guy, and now the wine guy chooses the beers.
Oh, see, that's you need, if you got a wine guy choosing the beer, he need to be a wine guy that knows about beer.
Right. So I'm
which
sure
is
to
not
him,
an uncommon thing. There's a ton of wine.
I'm betting you the beers are now an afterthought.
I will say though,
if
it's the place I'm thinking of, to their credit, they still have the Woodford Reserve double barrel.
They do have some very nice spirit
oak.
selections. Yes, they do have some very nice spirit selections. But anyway, my point is this: that it is much easier to just go the AB InBev route. It's one rep you're dealing with. It's like, I get it. I understand why places do it. But understand also that consumers, especially if you're a higher end place, consumers are looking for something different, something unusual. At least take 1 or 2 of those taps or 5 or 6 of those can or bottle positions and rotate in occasionally something a little bit different. You might not sell as much of it, but you may get major props from higher end beer consumers for coming in and trying.
There's that.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I as the devil's advocate here, I'm like, props don't go in my register.
Okay. But so take your how many beers do you stock? How many different beers do you stock?
I'd say like 13.
13. Okay.
12, maybe.
So take number 11 and 12. You're probably not the lowest ones on that. You're probably not selling very much of those 2 types of beer anyway, compared to what you're selling of the bigger ones, right? So you've got some wiggle room there. I mean, bring in something that would make Ian's eyes light up when he comes in,
I like
and
barley
then he's
wine. It was a great mistake.
It's a true story.
I can understand barley wine.
And I have barley wine.
I get that.
Right.
It's been distilled into single malt whiskey.
Yeah, okay. All right. So before we go there, and that's a good place to
go. We call that high barley wine.
Yeah.
There we go.
Ian, have you already finished off?
I haven't finished it. I
IPA?
have been drinking it though.
It's really good.
This is
really
rich.
bright.
This is orange juice.
Juice Bomb Units is the name of this.
This is orange juice with
a little beer,
lemon lime kind of thing going on to it. I love the mouthfeel of this. It's actually like a super big mouthfeel on it. It's more carbonation than I generally like, but works really well with what's going on here.
You know what this strikes me as? This strikes me as the perfect beer for Sunday brunch. You know that Sunday brunch that you usually go out and you order. Excuse me, maybe you order a mimosa.
Right.
This would be the perfect beer for that instead.
Exactly.
Indeed.
And it is really tasty. Really tasty. I love this. To me, this is
good. This has a little bit of the hop bitterness, a little bit of the what's the word I'm looking for? Resiny kind of bitterness to it. But however they hop this, it doesn't just take over the aftertaste.
Right. It doesn't linger
The
too badly.
aftertaste is a little more lemon and orange citrus, and it's quite good.
I'm actually really fond of this, and with it being a collaboration and being from Seattle, Washington, the only thing really bumming me out is that this probably is not something we could get a lot more
all the time, right?
And get a lot more.
I knew I was going to get scared for that.
Did you?
Wiki Brian propped up. Props do end up in your register. If I enjoy the restaurant and craft beer selection, I'm spreading the word. That word is potential customers. Customers fill your register.
It's true. He's got a valid point.
I'm sure it's a hard line to drive.
By mathematics, if beer makes up less than 1%, like I guess for me, if I was the bar manager at one of the restaurants you're at, and I had people clamoring for different beers, it would be
that
different.
would be a different.
I would be
thing.
more
Sure,
reactive to it.
Well,
but and then, again, this is very subjective. We're just not a beer place. Like, I mean,
Right.
you don't think of B&B and think, oh man, I'm going to get a cold one. You think I'm going to go get a dram, or a martini.
True.
I
Knowing
look
your
at-
clientele,
You got
is a huge part
you have
of
an
it.
identity.
Right. So take a look at let's transpose this discussion to the level of a brewery. St. Arnold Brewery here in our home city of Houston. They've won Mid-Size Craft Brewer of the Year before. I think it was year before last. They make excellent beers. St. Arnold's biggest sellers have a tendency, I believe, to be the Art Car IPA and the original St. Arnold Amber.
Yeah.
I think those are
Lawnmower's pretty hot,
their
too.
biggest.
Lawnmower's
Yes, Lawnmower is very hot. You're right. So those are probably their biggest sellers. But they also do these two series. They do the Bishop's Barrel series.
Oh yeah, and the Divine.
And they do the Divine. And they don't sell nearly as much of the Bishop's Barrel or the Divine as they do of these other brands that I mentioned. But what they do is they create this sense of coolness to consumers about, and because those beers are really good. I mean,
man, and I'll tell you the Divine series. When I was this was a long time ago, but I was at the Stag's Head, and the Stag's Head actually was one of the bars in Houston that would get the Divine cask.
Oh,
The
nice,
old-
yes,
the
yes.
old
I love
uncarbonated
that.
cask
Yes,
pull.
I used to get that all the
And
time. there.
literally, you'd have guys like they walk in, and if you had it, they would immediately sit down and drink, as many as they could,
right.
and then. If you floated it, and then the guys walk in, oh my God, you still have the Divine? No, we just sold out. They would literally just turn around, pull their phone out, and move on to the next bar. Like literally, the next bar on the list had it, and I mean, it is a following, and that's amazing.
Which would be, by the way, what's it called over in the village?
The Ginger Man.
Ginger Man, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely
right. So
a beer
what this
place.
goes to show you is, though, and I realize it's got to be different for every restaurant and who their clientele actually
Absolutely.
is. But your bar clientele can be so smart and educated.
Absolutely.
You guys have done such a great job of cultivating that
Yeah.
person who's going to come sit at your bar and have a whiskey or two. Or maybe something else from behind the bar. One of your cocktails. There's so much going on that's what I'd call above the average bar.
Sure.
I just love to see you
part
have
of
that
that
happening.
is training your staff. I mean,
Yes.
'cause I think one of the big differences between sitting at the bar and sitting in a dining room is in a dining room you're there with the people you're dining with.
Right.
At the bar,
Your
a lot
dinner
of times
guests.
you're
Yeah.
expecting the bartenders kind of more involved in your experience.
Right.
And you're chatting.
That's a
and-
good point.
And I think when you're at a place where people have an identity, and especially like I said, I assure you, if my bartenders if we had more people asking for really weird reserve beers, then we probably did, because we had a different beer selection in the beginning. I had some, but I would end
more
up sending them
experimental.
back.
And I
because they would
understand that because
expire.
you got to
know?
you really do have to stock what
You had
your customers are
taps
asking
for a while.
Oh, we
too.
did. We
Yeah,
had
yeah.
6, and again, I was literally getting kegs picked up that weren't even empty when they would
wow.
bring me new ones because I had to get right to move it because it's old.
Right, and you had
And I can't. I'm not. I mean, regardless of what I am or am not in the beer world, I am not going to serve
Old
a
beer,
product.
sure,
You
of
know what I
course.
mean?
Yeah, of
I
course.
respect the juice in
Well,
all
I think
forms.
I think that your restaurant is a little bit exempt because you do have you have the Guns and Oil and a few others that are.
Sure.
You have some of those, and you've made an
Trying to
object
put a little
out.
thought into it.
I
you
think
know?
I think the biggest thing about this is when you go to any of these places that say they have a whole bunch of taps of beer. If every tap is AB InBev, you really don't have much.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't. My beer menu doesn't say craft beer selection. It just says
Right,
beers.
it's just your beer menu.
domestic.
Sure, exactly.
Texas.
Exactly. No, you're
So-
and that's important. I think that you're not over representing it as
Sure.
being something that it's not. But what I will say though, I can always come to B&B and find an interesting beer on your menu.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah, and that's what I think some of these other places are missing. Something I either haven't had or there's been
Yeah, you
several
don't have- you
beers.
don't have to reinvent
several
the
beers
wheel,
I've had
but
for the
absolutely.
first time at B&B.
Which is,
What
I
is that?
feel
haven't
like
had that.
that's a
I'll
big
try it.
compliment for
Yes.
someone like you to say.
For as many
so.
different kinds of beers as we taste.
Absolutely.
And there's been a couple of things I can think of that I've had. The first time I've tasted them was there at the bar or maybe having
I
dinner.
want to say
at
one of
your
them was
restaurant.
when we had that bootlegger. Was it the
what
real
was
ale
the
bootlegger
cowboy
brown?
and what was the cowboy?
Oh man, the Bayou Uncommon Cowboy.
The Uncommon Cowboy. That was the
Oh,
first time
that's
I'd had that
great,
beer.
yeah.
at your place.
And I'm told that's about to is about to be in bottles because I've already told the guys at Town and City Tony that like, hey man, I don't have
That's in
kegs
bottles.
anymore.
Yeah, but
but you
that's
get
in
it to me
bottles.
in
You want it
something,
back.
it'll
Yeah.
show up in the restaurant as soon as you get it. So.
Awesome. I absolutely love it. Well, let's change. I wanted to mention, by the way, that this Juice Units IPA has passed the IPA cigar test, which is what I call it the IPA cigar test, which is if I have the beer and I'm smoking a cigar, does it make the cigar start coming across harsh to me? And sometimes the hoppiness of what can be a really delicious IPA just doesn't work with the cigar, and it won't pass the IPA cigar test. But this one did. The Juice Bomb Units had enough juiciness to counteract the bitter, I think, that it did. I'm still really enjoying.
I think the crux of that is that it's more juicy
And less balmy.
than just brutal hoppy. You know,
Right.
I think it's a juice bomb. It's not a hop bomb, and
Right.
I think that really helps along
Right.
with cigars.
You're absolutely right. Some of the great, double and imperial IPAs that I've had that are such great experiences to drink are just you just have to do it at a time when you're not going to be smoking because it just doesn't work. You know?
And that's something to be said. Like there's vices that
The juicy thing, I think,
Sometimes you
is
should
new
preserve
enough
our
still
flavor.
to where we're still kind of experimenting with, how juicy and what kind
Right.
of juicy
how
and that
juicy
kind
and
of
how
stuff.
much bitterness should the juicy have?
Because
and
when
all
it
that,
comes
yeah.
to a straight IPA and having a cigar with a straight IPA, like whether it's a double IPA or whatever, it all has to do with how much malt profile you have on
Absolutely.
the beginning of it.
And with the
then
juicies, you're
how
not
much
getting
of
as
that-
much malt in general.
How
so.
much of that resinous bitter you have on the end, and how it clears the palate. Because there are some incredibly hoppy beers that are just fine with a cigar, but then there's a lot that are not.
No, you're absolutely right, and you're also calling correctly on the malt thing because the malt profile generally goes really well with the cigar.
Yeah, if you have a beer
But
that's malty, you're
but
definitely
if
going to...
the malt is obscured
But
by
one
the
thing I'm intrigued to see as to whether or not it does happen to kind of tie in IPAs like this that are collaborations and the collaborative roller blender kind of thing is now that you have this new generation of cigar guys who are probably also, some of them are bound to also be craft beer guys.
well,
At some point, are you going to start seeing like a focus on that pairing?
Well, it has happened to a small extent. Perdomo
For sure.
has a line that has 3 cigars
That whole
are
craft series.
designed
I think
to
it's
go
4, actually,
with
isn't
craft
it?
beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, interestingly enough, and not surprisingly, most of them are designed to be paired with darker beers, which
Sure.
are maltier and have more of the profile.
they have
but-
one
But
for...
that's
They have
that's
one
the
for...
low-hanging fruit.
Right,
You
exactly.
you got to wonder as it progresses.
Yeah, will somebody come up with this is the cigar you can have
'cause,
with
like,
a
an
very
Well,
IPA.
they have one for a stout, one for an IPA, one for, I think, the lighter
black
side.
lager or a brown lager, I think.
Yeah, I think they have 4 of them, actually.
Yeah.
So
So there's that, and I've also seen a couple of other cigars that have been either advertised or talked about as being good pairings with craft beer. So I do think you'll see more of that. The craft beer, the craft beer thing.
It's obviously
continues.
not going anywhere.
Yeah, no matter what you're
Right.
reading about beer sales, the bottom line is this: beer sales may be down, but craft beer sales continue to be up. Things are
Which
shifting.
makes sense because they're buying less,
but
better
also
beer.
also understand that a lot of these, when they say craft beer sales are down, it's not necessarily that they're actually moving down the scale. It's that they're not going up at the same rate that they were the previous year.
Sure.
Well, and think about this.
So they consider that even though the sales themselves are still rising a lot of
Right.
times, they're not rising at the same rate, and that's what they call craft beer sales going down.
And think about this. What was it, 2 years ago that AB InBev bought Carbach?
Yep.
So every single beer Carbach sold the year before that counted as a beer sale for craft beer.
Yes.
Sure.
As soon as that purchase was complete, they no longer count
Right.
in the
That's
accounting portion of this as a
gajillions
craft
of
beer.
cases.
So what you have is AB InBev buying, they're not going to go around buying the small breweries that aren't selling well.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to buy the big ones that have, the bigger craft breweries that are moving more product. So you're going to see them, as they do this stuff, take guys off the board. That's going to hurt the quote-unquote perceived sales
Sure.
of craft beer. But the reality is that Karbach is now selling more than they were before the AB InBev takeover because their distribution's better.
Yep.
They're in more places. So, all right, we know that the juice bomb units went okay with the cigars.
Yeah.
You and I talked yesterday about cigars and aquavit.
Yes, we did. Let's do this.
And you are, of all the people I know, you may be the biggest fan of aquavit.
I am a real aficionado of this spirit.
Yes.
It's cool. It's got a cool history. It's very strangely local, which actually one of the cool things about this particular aquavit we're going to try is so I have a great regular that comes to the restaurant, and Tor brought me this from Norway.
Oh.
And you actually cannot, this is not even available for purchase in the United States.
So it's a direct from Norway aquavit.
Absolutely. So this is called, it's Gammel Opland. So kind of like everything else, like learning to read labels is important. So Opland would be the region.
Yeah.
And then Gammel would mean aged or old.
Okay.
So in some aquavits, you'll
Aged
see
from that particular region.
it's old Opland aquavit.
Okay.
So you'll see it also in some other ones. You'll see like Gamle, things like that. But it basically just means aged. And then you've got a couple different styles. I tend to prefer the far north, the more northern Scandinavians,
Right.
the Denmark, the Norway. You can also aquavit is something that you'll see in Sweden, Switzerland a little bit. But it's just kind of this local, like a lot of people will say it's in some ways medicinal. I like it because it kind of has these great digestive qualities to it. It's very herbaceous, and stylistically, you're gonna get like I tend to think the more continental and the more southern aquavits tend to be more. They have a higher viscosity, fatter mouthfeel,
right,
and more licorice, more anise. Whereas the far northern ones are going to be more caraway and kind of dill driven, which tends to be more
more towards your palate. Yeah, I agree.
So my favorite two that are available that you can get just pretty much anywhere are the Aalborg, which is out of Copenhagen, Denmark, and that's a Tafel, so it's clear. And then the Linny, which is Norwegian, and that's the one that's aged on the bow of the ships, and it crosses the equator twice. And
that's cool.
we had that one. That's the one we had at the Sniff last year.
Right. And it went over rather well, as I recall.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it was one of those things that I just kind of, I started drinking aquavit, and, when you tend to drink things on the porch while you're smoking your cigar, you figure out what works and what doesn't. And I just found that, aged aquavit was really nice.
Well, we found out last week something that we wouldn't have guessed is that there's actually vermouth that is cigar friendly.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know that I would have like
that dry vermouth we had.
Oh, my goodness.
Absolutely. There's some great
I had
vermouths.
no idea you would just drink vermouth by itself.
Yeah.
That was brand new to me.
No, it's kind of an older trend, but definitely back in like the late '60s. I mean, Punta Mess with ice and lemon,
right,
was a thing, and that is some bitter stuff.
This aquavit, boy, you nailed it with the caraway. I mean, that is the first. It's a caraway on the nose. Like after you've taken the first sip and you've done the swallow, then caraway comes back in your nose.
Absolutely.
In a big way.
I will tell you, I generally am not a big fan of anise as a flavor. This has it in such a really nice, delicate way.
Absolutely.
It's balanced, yes.
That it's not, because anise is one of those things that when you put it in something, it tends to dominate everything.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite breweries, Bell's, makes a stout with anise, and it's not one of my favorite beers because it just kind of takes over the beer to me.
And you love Bell's, so it's
and
not
I love many things that they do, and I'm sure there's a huge. I mean, they make the beer, so I'm sure there's a huge bunch of people out there that love it. This here is very drinkable, and I'm surprised that I'm really enjoying something with that anise flavor because usually to me,
I think
it's too much.
Well, and that's kind of the regionality.
You were talking about that, the northern.
So if I brought like there's a couple domestic distilleries that are really doing cool things with aquavit. There's Devil's Head in Colorado, and then Krogstad, which is in Portland. But they tend to do more of that continental style. So
which is going to have more of the licorice.
So what they do to kind of counter it is they do these heavy barrel ages. So it kind of tames it.
Interesting.
Whereas I tend to prefer, like, for example, the Linny and this one as well, like, you get a lot more anise on the nose than you get on the tongue, which I think is a good thing. You want to get the smell.
I I like the idea of it better than I like the taste of it
Exactly.
as a.
I believe I've said on the show,
yeah.
you can keep licorice unless it's absinthe.
Yeah, this is actually pretty delightful.
It does raise. You know how every now and then on the morning zoo radio shows back when they were a thing, they would have the highway patrol officer come in, and they would give the hosts of the show. They would give them like beer or wine or cocktails or whatever. They would drink throughout the show. They'd take their blood alcohol level at certain points and talk about and the whole idea being by the end of the show they're slurring their words and it's a good don't drink and drive sort of lesson, right? And then they get them all a cab or a limo to take them home at the end of the show. Well, I was thinking we should do something similar to that, only it should be the Smoking and Toasting Absinthe show.
We can do that.
We should
I can
just
make that happen.
Get together. The show should just keep going until it can't really go anymore. Until Adam goes, okay, we're shutting you down.
We can talk about absinthe.
Until Adam goes, actually, I shut you guys down about a half hour ago.
Yeah, he's like, y'all know this segment was cut off a while back,
Yeah,
right?
for all I know, we're not even still on right now. So that could happen. Actually, that did happen back in the Bobby days. But but I digress. So
he was just so far up there he couldn't hear you.
Yeah, that's. So you really are an absinthe guy then?
I absolutely adore it. I think absinthe it's one of the coolest stories, I think, in all of spirits. It's got such a rich history. Just the people that both championed it as well as ostracized it, the way it made its sort of resurgence. I don't know, man. I'm a sucker for stories when it comes to spirits.
How about the way it's generally served?
Well, see, and that's another argument, man. Because there's this whole thought that absinthe is always lit on. You light it on fire, etc.
Melt the sugar in, blah blah blah.
And the truth of it is that didn't actually come about until way later on. That was more of an Eastern European way of serving it, and it's because the absinthe was really bad. And anytime you make something illicit, you're going to have a very giant schism in its quality. You're going to have very, very good and impossible to find.
Don't make me start talking about homebrewing again.
And
no, I'm just joking, Brian. I'm sure yours is wonderful.
But the truest absinthe service is literally just the absinthe in a glass. You have a tower that has cold water.
Right.
Your sugar sits on a spoon on top of it, and you put the drops down so the sugar goes in. Little stir. Once you see the luge, which is when it goes from the transparent to the kind of milky white, light green, once it luges, you drink it.
Wow.
And there's a very classic cocktail. It's one of my favorites, or I say classic, new classic, however you want to slice it. But the Green Beast. It's simple. It's just absinthe, water, sugar, cucumber, and it's phenomenal. And this cucumber, it's the tip of your nose right when you go in to drink it. It's amazing.
Well, my only real I've tried absinthe a couple of times, just the kind you could get legally here, of course.
Sure, well, it's legal now, and that's the thing. Their whole now it's a thing. There are bars you can go take flight. You can drink flights
of absinthe. So my only experience has been tasting it a couple of times, and then
that's good.
Back in my radio days, we had an opportunity to interview Marilyn Manson for the morning show. Only the thing is, Marilyn isn't coming anywhere at like 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. on a morning show. So in order to do this, the morning show members had to agree to come up to the studio at 3 in the morning and record an interview, which would be played back later on the morning show. Here's the interview we did at 3 o'clock this morning.
A couple hours later.
The morning show used to be there at 5 a.m. or something anyway.
So Marilyn shows up, which, by the way, everyone wants to know what was he like. He was as nice and gentlemanly as he could be.
Here's my question.
Yes.
On a radio interview, was he in full regalia or was he just like normal?
Not full regalia. He was still made up.
Okay.
But he wasn't necessarily, he didn't show up in a G-string with a
nine-inch
platform heels
a
or
staff
whatever.
with like
weird
an
contacts
head on it.
Yes. And he did show up with his girlfriend at the time, who was the really pale actress. I'll think of her name in a second. She's actually a really very good actress, but she's very, very young and very pale. She came and just hung out while he did the interview. But anyway, the point is, he brought a bottle of absinthe with him. He sat and poured it and drank it during the interview. And at the time, I thought, oh, Marilyn's really into absinthe. And then I thought, Nah, I think he's just trying to be weird.
It's quite possible, especially at that point in time.
There was an Onion article about how Marilyn Manson was having to go door to door to find new people to shock. At one point in time.
I totally get it. But I will say,
awesome.
It was pretty funny.
Yeah, but I will say, in answer to the question, he couldn't have been nicer. So there you go.
That's
Yeah,
good. I always like when
Not as nice as Alice Cooper, by the way, who
Dude.
is the nicest human
That
being
guy,
you will ever meet.
Every interview I've ever seen with that guy,
he's
just the
he's
coolest
like a
guy
teddy
ever.
bear. Like he's like the nicest guy ever.
Yeah,
But
he's also
anyway.
very slight, so it helps that he's nice.
Yes. But if you take a picture with him, he will oblige by pretending to choke you during the photograph, and it does make for really good really good stuff to add to your bathroom wall of the stars if you have such a thing in your home.
That's awesome.
So, all right. So the Aquavit, I really enjoy this. To me, the caraway is enough of a strong sort of a flavor of this that it sort of gets that anise or anise, however you say it, to take a little bit of a back seat. And I like that. Yeah, I like that blend very nicely.
The anise should be an undertone, and that's very
Right.
much the Norwegian style.
It has also a little bit of an oily feel on the tongue and leaves
Yes.
a little bit of a tingle too.
Yes, it does.
in
Both
a
those
pleasant way.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's the wood. So, like, if you had a Toffel Opland, that would be unaged. It would be clear, and that would be more astringent, more of just a clean. You'd get more of the anise, but it would be even more aggressive on the nose. Like it's like, and that's one of the reasons of the Toffels. I love the Aalborg so much. I should have actually brought that too. We could have done a side by side. I have a pretty good Aquavit collection.
Well,
I almost said absinthe collection, and that's kind of true too.
as I feel now, I must mention, just because you brought it up about the wood versus not using the wood and the
Absolutely.
clear. If I could be so bold as to quote legendary country and pop star Kenny Rogers, who owned Kenny Rogers Roasters, chicken fast food places all over the country at one time, it's the wood that makes it good.
There you have it.
Now, I did have a extra reason for bringing that up, because we're about to wrap up this segment and take a quick break, and I wanted this segment to be the only cigar or spirits show ever to discuss Marilyn Manson and Kenny Rogers in the same segment.
That's amazing.
Yes,
Yeah.
so we can chalk that up to our list of accomplishments.
Yeah, I think mathematically, I think you're good. I think it's going to be a long time.
I think,
Statistically speaking, I think we're in solid territory.
and it is the wood that makes it good. I'll also mention that Kenny Rogers Roasters no longer exist. They wound up going out of business, I think largely over some concerns about how the chickens were being treated. And there was one awesome incident where a woman showed up at a Kenny Rogers concert in a full chicken costume and proceeded to hurl insults at him from the second row for the entire
Should
show.
have brought her on stage and started playing Stroker Ace on the big
Would
screen.
that be like the greatest thing ever? I think it would be the greatest thing ever. We will take a break and come back for our next segment. We have some rum to taste, gentlemen.
Indeed.
And so we'll do that.
Speaking of storied spirit history.
Yes, yes.
Begging the
And
question,
we'll talk
what
about
to do with the drunken sailor.
and we'll try to answer not only that, but how rum came to be in our next segment. So get ready to rum bowl. Oh, man, not only was that the worst pun ever on the show, but I now owe that dude some money, I think. Several $1 million. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's Smoking and Toasting. By the way, for those of you who don't watch the show live on Facebook when it goes out, I do recommend doing so, because sometimes the in-between the segment stuff, like great prog rock and metal discussion we just had here. So it's just you never know what's going to happen. Actually, you never know what's going to happen during the segment.
That's true.
But
I will be going home to Spotify later.
Yes,
and
all right.
checking some
Good,
stuff out.
good.
That was all. That's
well,
good.
well, when you do, check out the latest. You check out any of the Porcupine Tree albums,
Okay.
or you can check out the latest album from Porcupine Trees. Stephen Wilson, the kind of head guy,
Cool.
I guess.
No, I'll check it out.
Yeah. I saw him last year. Oh my God, phenomenal.
Speaking
I
on,
mean,
like, before we jump into the segment, on a kind of awesome, both metally and prog rocky, the fact that I can listen to Tool on Spotify now is amazing.
Maynard finally gave in, and the album comes out with
Yeah.
tomorrow. Is that right? Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you.
Oh, also on Spotify
learn to swim.
is
learn
the
to
Blackout
swim.
Vipers.
Oh yes.
That's my band.
Which I really want
awesome.
to see live. I've been trying to see the Blackout Vipers live.
You'll have that opportunity next month.
I tried really hard a couple of weeks ago, but it just wasn't meant to be.
That's its own story.
I know, and I love making you almost think that I'm going to force you to tell it.
Well, you will have a chance to see that in about a month, by the way.
I'm looking forward to it. I've heard the encore song is brilliant.
That's amazing.
All right. So one of the things that did happen last week that I don't know if we had a chance to address or not. We had a great guest on the show, by the way, last week from Trinquero Spirits. He was awesome. We got to taste some things we'd never probably have thought to taste.
That I would enjoy vermouth just by itself.
Absolutely.
That dry vermouth was outstanding.
Absolutely. And that whiskey was delicious, too.
Yes.
It was really good.
Yes, I have been enjoying that whiskey, by the way.
Good to know. So, because of having a guest and talking other spirits, we didn't really get a chance to properly celebrate last week. One of the days was National Rum Day.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Day.
So we'll celebrate it today, a little late, with some Appleton Estate Rare Blend. And while you're pouring that, let's talk rum a little, because I loved going back and seeing some of the information about how rum even came to be. Wow, that was good.
I had to get
that's like beer pong right there, only it's rum pong.
I had to get a little bit of sound effect from that.
I love it. Rum commands about almost 9.5% of the total spirits market in the U.S., which I'm going to be honest with you is a little larger than I thought. I would have actually thought it would have been
currently
a little bit
the
less
state
than
of American
with
whiskey.
the way whiskey is so huge right now, and of course, vodka being as big as it is.
Absolutely.
And then you got tequila, which is on an upswing as well. So it's always interesting to see how these things play out. Globally, rum makes up about 4.5% of the global spirit market.
Sure.
But I think it's obviously bigger in certain areas. The Caribbean comes
the
to mind.
Americas happen to be where it's probably consumed the most.
So it's a truly worldwide spirit. But here's how rum originated. There is no other agricultural product that goes into rum except sugarcane. So you can't make it from anywhere else and have it be rum. Whereas there are some spirits, the same thing with tequila and agave, but there are some spirits you can distill from a number of sources.
Indeed.
Vodka comes to mind, and still have it wind up being that spirit once it's done. The origins of sugarcane came from the 15th century BC, and the first place that we knew about this plant was Papua New Guinea. You think, wow. Huh. You would have expected it to be the Caribbean, right? Because Papua New Guinea's way over like Australia side of the world. Yeah, right. But it was part of Papua New Guinea's crops that they raised way back in the day, 15th century BC. And through trade, the plant made its way into India, Saudi Arabia, and Spain. From Spain, Christopher Columbus brought it in his second voyage to the Americas. He brought sugarcane during his second trip in 1493, basically because he thought the cheap labor of slaves in the New World would allow him to create quite a bit of sugar export to Spain, which was his home country. So the African slaves that were later forced to harvest the crop noticed in the harvesting that the juice of the plant would ferment all by itself, just naturally. After 3 days in contact with just the yeast in the environment, it would start to ferment naturally, and they started to drink it and suddenly saw, and I'm quoting from the article I read this from, quote, a change in their mood, end quote. So they first started to call this root spirit Kill Devil because it chilled people out. And you think about that. Like, you don't know many rum drinkers that drink a little rum and then get boisterous. Rum drinkers just get fun and chill, you know? So as Kill Devil gained popularity, people started taking notice, and that included pirates. And pirates would begin looting ships and become interested in having rum for their long voyages between the Caribbean and Europe. It wasn't until the 16th century that rum got transformed into the spirit that we drink today, with cleaning and distilling the alcohol in a proper way. Those processes were brought from Europe to America, so rum became what we know now. Rum houses like Flor de Caña began producing rum on a really large scale, and that's when the spirit began to spread. So, but I thought that was fascinating. That it originated in Papua New Guinea, was brought from Spain to the Americas, basically so slave labor could
harvest
the sugar cane. That's where they found out, hey, this juice is pretty good after a few days.
that's crazy.
It's actually one of the
and
very
then pirates spread it around the world.
unfortunate connections that
Right.
rum will always have is directly to slavery.
And
At one point,
really-
I believe it was
yeah.
called the Golden Trade, where
Right.
it was literally traded for people to get more slaves to make more rum.
And it is unfortunate, and yet there are so many products that we know and use every day
Absolutely.
that have those same, unfortunate
Origins.
links.
We all wear
hope that
cotton
we
t-shirts.
learn as we,
1,000%.
we hope that we
1,000%.
learn as we move forward. Right. You're right. We all wear cotton shirts.
And that's the thing, though. But that's one of the things, and I believe it wasn't even that long ago that Florida Cognac went through some issues with the fair trade of their rum harvesting, and they actually became very transparent because of it, and are now like one of the most successful and I can't think of the word, but I want to say cohesive, but that's not right. Cooperative with
Cooperative,
where
yes.
their rum is being made.
Well, there are a number of larger rum producers. Florida Cognac that we mentioned is one of the biggest, and boy, do they make some amazing rums.
We drank
And then-
much of that when we were in Honduras.
Yes, we did. Who was the one dude? Was he the dude from Pittsburgh that kept like sneaking away the 21 and hiding it in the freezer? I'm like, hey, some of the rest of us, and he was using it in like rum and coke. I'm like,
come on.
dude. The 7 will work just great for that. You leave that 21
And don't
over
get me
here for
wrong,
those of us who are doing
if all
the neat.
you have is a couple bottles of 21 and you really want a rum and coke, fine. But if you've
Right.
got a 7
Like
and
a
a
damn good
21,
rum and coke, right?
come on.
But I will say, I sure enjoyed sitting there sipping the 7. It was awfully good all by itself. So Florida Cognac is great. And Appleton Estates is another of the sort of big names in rum, Jamaican rum specifically.
Absolutely.
And these guys, just their base, we've had it on the show before, their base like signature blend is just a very good basic rum. Great in cocktails, good enough to sip alone if you want to, just pour it neat or maybe over a cube of ice. This, though, is taking their rum to a little bit different level. This is the
Sure.
rare blend, and this is this 12-year.
I also love the value in rum. And I know you and I have talked about this, and I've definitely mentioned on the show, but when you talk about great in cocktails, it can stand alone as a sipper. But even the really good sippers, you can get, like, they're A, available, and B, for a very approachable price point. Like the flavor to cost value. Like, remember when you guys used to do like this, or maybe sometimes still do with the cigars, like
The price
to quality. Yep.
price to quality measurement. Like with rums, man, it's good.
Yes.
Like you get out there like the Zayas that are, you can get a 16-year, or a Florida Cognac 7 or 12.
Sure.
We talk about the Zacapa all the time, but I mean,
Zacapa is a great price to quality.
the
Absolutely.
plantations.
Plantations. Those are amazing rums,
You
and,
get-
and they're generally
you can
$20
get
to
a-
$30.
You can get
Yeah.
a crazy aged rum for like $60
I
for
know.
plantation. I mean, it's
well,
awesome.
this one that we're going to taste today is Signature Blend. It's a 12-year. If you were
I've already tasted
if
it.
you were
It's
Yeah,
drinking,
what do you mean by gonna?
so, if you were drinking a 12-year whiskey,
Sure.
what would you guess that bottle cost would be likely to be in the range?
These days, I would say you're up in that 77, 85. Anything with some good age to it.
$40.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I think you can probably price it
And-
between 40 and 45.
And I think you get so many of the similar flavor profiles. Like if you're having a smoke,
Right.
you get so much of the same pairings, the vanillin, the caramel, some of the eugenol that comes through. I will wave that flag right now because you can go get this. Like
Right.
we could sit here on this show and talk
I bought
about
this at Specs.
amazing whiskeys.
You use that word eugenol. Would you explain that for our?
So the two big flavor components, I specifically will use rum and whiskey. Obviously, there are flavor components and many more things. Vanillin and eugenol are really good friends. And so vanillin is exactly what you think. It's vanilla, it's caramel, white flour, honey. And eugenol is sort of the other end of that circle, which is your baking spices. So think cinnamon, clove, allspice, five spice. So for example, in American whiskey, the predominant in a bourbon would be vanillin, and the predominant in a rye is more likely to be eugenol. Right. So with bourbons, you tend, like especially your wheaters, they tend to live on the front of your tongue, And then your more eugenol friendly, your rye, things like that, your high rise on the bourbon side, they tend to live more on the back of your palate. Beam Suntory is notorious for this because that's why Maker's Mark and Knob Creek are what they are.
Right.
One is designed to be the sweet wheat on the front, and one is
the other
designed to be the spicy rye on the back.
Absolutely.
And they don't cannibalize themselves with their own whiskey. It's an amazing thing.
But they're two of their biggest sort of crafty.
I'm telling you right now, like Knob Creek is a go-to. Like if I
absolutely.
walk into a bar and there's too much going on or whatever, or they don't have what I want, or I'm just not even I'm just like, you know what, give me a Knob Creek on the rocks, and I'm a happy man.
And I will say, I always have a bottle of Maker's 46 in my bar.
See, I'm the Maker's cask. Now that the Maker's cask is out, the Maker's cask is all.
We got to go there. That's a future trip.
Well, you guys have been talking a lot. I've been doing research.
And I love that about you because you are devoted to the craft,
right?
And to the to making sure that the proper research is done for the show.
I have been doing the research. This is delicious. This is not smooth in the way some of the ones you've brought in before are, and you can guarantee if it's rum on the show that I probably wasn't the one that brought it. Not for the fact that I don't like rum. It's just not my biggest drinker.
Sure.
And you know much more about it. This, however, has such a pleasant beginning in the flavor. I mean, it starts off with that sugar and the vanillins and all those things, and then it finishes with that spicy bite. And you know you're drinking an alcoholic beverage. This is not super smooth on the finish, but it's good. It's got a great little amount of bite to it.
I have certainly had smoother rums, even younger rums that were smoother. But this rum, what I like about it is it plays on two different areas of the tongue. When you first take that first sip, it's the front end, the tip, and the front end of your tongue get this wonderful little heat tingle. Then you get the flavors, very, very rich in the vanillas and the caramels, toasted caramel for days. And then after you swallow, the finish kind of brings this warmer heat to the back part of your tongue and the upper palate. And it is really... I'll go back to it being an experience, and when I was reading that article where they talked about the people's mood changes, this changes my mood and in a very mellow and positive way. And that, to me, that's what I love so much about rum. Is it's tequila is an exciting spirit. It plays on you differently. Rum just makes you mellow.
It's a very mellow thing.
Yeah,
it's just interesting how good this is, and the bite on it is immediate, which gives us that effect of it's not as smooth as some, but it's so good. I mean, in the same way that beef jerky is not smooth,
right? But it's delicious.
Yeah. So I mean,
Exactly.
I'm not saying that there's anything bad about it. It's just one of those things.
One of the reasons that I have become such an aficionado of rum is, and when I say aficionado, I don't in any way mean expert. I just mean somebody that loves it and keeps trying new stuff and wants to be all about it, is because of how well rum generally goes with a cigar. I don't know if I've ever had a rum that I've thought, that doesn't really go with the cigar. And with whiskey, with some, certainly with craft beer, even sometimes with tequilas, you have to be a little more careful, although... Boy, there's some great pairings in there with all those things, but you're looking at the show notes, I'd say.
Well, so on a response here, we got a couple things. So Wiki Brian has popped up, and for some reason above his name, it now says, it has a little flag and says milestone follower. That's got to be good, right?
Well, I think the only other person I know of as a milestone follower was that person who did that review that didn't didn't like our guest.
So
or us,
he put in eugenol is a colorless to pale yellow aromatic oily liquid extracted from certain essential oils, especially from clove oil, nutmeg, cinnamon, basil, and bay leaf.
Awesome. He's always so good to do that,
he's really good
level
like that,
research for us. Yeah.
So I want to take a quick pause and give a shout out because today's a special day for one of our close friends of the show, Mr. Alan Denny.
I love Alan Denny.
Yeah, he's so
even
fun.
Though it has been said that nobody cares about him, I actually do.
Today his cigar
Alan
shop. Today his cigar shop is opening in Galveston, Texas. So
Nice.
we're back to the whole pirate and rum thing. Right?
Yes, I love it.
Yarg.
That's awesome.
It's
G-Town.
called
Shout out to
Galveston.
Guidos.
It's called Galveston Island Cigar Lounge. It's at 1813 61st Street, Suite 104 in Galveston, Texas. They open today at 4 o'clock, come hell or high water. And I think it's just going to be hell because it looks great outside right now. He's not going to have high water.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Alan.
Congratulations. Yeah, absolutely. And
We will be doing a show from there very soon.
Yes, very soon. In about a month, we're going to be doing a show out of there, and we're seeing about getting some local brewery on or something else fun like that.
We'll have to maybe try to do a rum that to keep the pirate theme going.
Yarg.
Maybe we'll do a rum. I would think although we won't be going there by boat.
We can wear an eye patch.
Talk to the guys at
Show.
Beerfoot, man. Those guys brew some great beers.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's on the
Beerfoot?
seawall.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Beerfoot. When I used to work at Guidos, man, and that was like, we'd go over to Beerfoot, and they'd always have really, really cool stuff all local. I mean, they have other beers that you can get, but like Beerfoot, if you're on the seawall, and I know there's more now.
Well, the two I was looking at were Beerfoot and Galveston Island Brewery. So.
Yeah, absolutely. But Beerfoot's great, man. They do a lot of cool seasonal stuff.
Well,
and they also have a pretty decent whiskey selection, including Redbreast 12-year.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Well, see, which
Single
we're going to
pot
have
still.
to do on the show
Sure.
now, since it's been declared
Yeah,
the greatest.
next time we're at
whiskey
B&B,
ever.
man. I've got
right.
it on the shelf. I keep
All
it in
right,
stock.
that sounds good. When we go down to Galveston, by the way, we won't be going by boat. We'll be going down there for our pirate and cigar celebration in my car.
In your car.
Yeah, and the whole show will be filled with bad pirate jokes.
Oh, yes.
I promise.
Oh, yes.
So
I
you're saying
promise.
you shouldn't let the kids watch because it'll
Yeah.
be rated R.
I'm saying my wife will not want to watch that episode. That's what I'm saying. She'll be like, okay, the pirate jokes were great for about a minute and a half. Yeah. All right, let's take a break, gentlemen. When we come back, I do want to talk just a tiny bit more about this rum, but we have a craft beer that I'm really excited to be getting to, and you brought another spirit, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
What did you bring?
I figure in the spirit of talking about the Sniff, and
Yeah.
since
That's
on the
right.
show,
That's right.
during the recording of this, I got confirmation that we got the date that we wanted, so we were
Perfect.
absolutely
So
free
we're
and clear to
absolutely
say
free
it.
and clear to say the
We
date.
can talk about it.
We will talk about it. We'll make that big announcement, and then we'll be sampling this advanced oak Belgian-Style Quint.
Pretty
Gentlemen,
excited about this
how
beer.
are you doing? Just in terms of your buzz level.
Good. We've been sipping.
yeah,
I
I'm
ate
doing-
right before I
I'm
came.
doing
I
all
was-
right, yeah.
All
That's some
because
food.
this is 15.
I love it already.
I was
You
just
love
about
it
to
already.
say, all right, so
We're
this
gonna
is
be
this
going
is going to
there.
be Ian's segment.
Yes,
Boozy.
and we'll get to that segment next on Smoking a Toast.
What's up, Christopher Hart?
We are back at Smoking and Toasting. It's the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant, 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. And we were talking in between the segments, and I said, this is pretty good stuff. We should probably put in the segment. We were talking about, you mentioned that you'd been binging Cheers episodes on Netflix, and taking a look at what they had behind Sam in the bar.
Yeah,
and,
man, it's
how
cool.
fascinating it was from the standpoint of somebody who pays attention to these type of things.
Absolutely.
And,
And I've always wondered, what beer are they drinking? Because Norman and Clippy is all of it, but it's just this little tiny nub of a tap handle.
Right.
Right.
You get a beer, Sammy? I guess
Best-
Yeah, they
everybody
never
there
mention a beer.
drinks
It's just a
lager.
beer.
Yeah, but still, to me, and I may have said this on the show before, but best episode of Cheers ever is the episode where Norm gets a job as a beer taster,
yes.
and they put the white lab coat on him. They lead him back into the brewery. He walks into the room where the big tanks are, and the first thing he does is he just walks up to the tank and hugs it. Brilliant. That's brilliant television right there.
You know how they always had that? They had the skit at the very beginning before they put the
Well, the
intro.
credits, yeah.
Right before the intro, and they had a guy walk in. He's like, "Oh, I hadn't been in this place in years. So much has changed. That wall didn't used to be there. This didn't used to be there. That didn't used to be there." And Woody's like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" He goes, "Oh, right there behind Norm."
That's great stuff. You were talking about watching to see what beer people are drinking, and certainly there are plenty of beers that get put into a show for product placement.
Right.
And then sometimes you can tell that no one has paid for product placement. So I'll give you an example. My wife and I have been binging the A&E show Burn Notice, which is about a spy who gets burned and then he's trying to work his way back in. And so as the episodes go by, they do a number of different little jobs and stuff, and that's what the show is about. That plus the larger plot thing of him trying to figure out who burned him and get back in the in the game. But one of the characters, my favorite character on the show, his name is Sam Axe. He wears Hawaiian shirts all the time, and he's like an ex-special forces guy, but he loves his mojitos and his beer. And so they're constantly getting together to discuss what they're going to do over drinks or beer, and they're constantly drinking this beer that just every time I watch the show, I'm like, I want a beer. I'm really thirsty for a beer. But it's in this red bottle, and I've been trying to figure out what it is for the whole show. Been trying to get a glimpse of it where I can see the thing. I'm like 5 seasons in, and I still don't know what the beer is. They very cleverly don't show the thing. However, for 3 episodes in like season 3, suddenly they were all about Miller Genuine Draft. And it was really easy to see that. And Sam even mentions in the show, yeah, I picked up some Miller Genuine Draft for us to take along. I'm like, so and this show's, maybe 10, 12 years old.
Right.
But that's product placement at that time. That's what that looks like. Because they were being so careful not to give somebody free advertising. Then suddenly, not only can you see the label every time, but they even work it into a mention in the show. So I just point that out. By the way, it's a great show, but the reason I mentioned it was because of anyway. Soon they tired of Miller Genuine Draft and went back to the red bottle.
Brian
Clifford T. Clavin.
Brian put in. Well, you see, Norm, it's like this. A herd of buffalo can only move as fast as the slowest buffalo, and when the herd is hunted, the slowest and weakest ones at the back are killed first. This natural selection is good for the herd as a whole because of the general speed and health of the whole group keeps improving by regularly killing the weakest members. He's talking about someone mentioning that beer kills brain cells, and so he's likening that to it, and it's actually hilarious.
Well, that's, of course, Clavin always has.
Well, you see, your Mesopotamian buffaloes. Yeah,
it's funny that you mentioned that.
So a couple quick things. The cigar that I had was absolutely fantastic. I believe that was a $12 or $13 cigar. Mm-hmm. Definitely a 5 to a 5.5 on that. That was the Monte Cristo Nicaragua series, and that was fantastic. I'm about to light this Cohiba, the Red Dot, that our producer gave to me, and I'm going to enjoy that for the rest of the show.
So I'm enjoying this. It was the Romeo by Aging Room, and it was also in the $11 range, I want to say. It's smoking very nicely. Has survived multiple relights, as often happens to me during the show, and is still smoking beautifully. Has paired well with everything. I give that a solid 5. Now, the cigar I bought for Jeremiah,
I don't know what that is, but
that was like a $2.50 cigar.
The initial,
I'm just kidding.
Well, hey, then I give it a 10.
the initial light on that was so spicy. Like when you lit it up, it caught my attention.
Yeah.
I was like, "What is that?"
It's pepper and
So
dark and
this is
awesome. Actually,
this is the Crowned Heads, and I'm going to look at the little band that you took off because it's Roman numerals. Somebody help me with Roman numeral translation here because
X is 10.
X is 10, so that's
it's 28. No, 18.
18. Okay. 18. All right. So it's a Crowned Heads. 18. We'll have to go look at the box to see if there's another word on it, but actually, it looked really good.
It's quite tasty, and I like the more bold. I tend to lean more towards the Maduros a lot, and this kind of it's not a full. Mm-hmm. We're not in that like deep dark realm.
Yes,
but it's got a lot of those cool spices, and it's definitely like it's a long finish. Like I'm still. Mm-hmm. Still getting, now, still developing.
I didn't ask you about the Cuban that you took down earlier.
Man, it was good. I was having a similar issue where it was really, really tight, and I was a little bit worried about the draw. Mm-hmm. And then after about the first, maybe 3/4 of an inch of it, it really opened up. It stayed lit for most of the show. I think I only had to relight it twice or once. That's good. But really nice. And again, went with everything. I mean, that's the great thing about that particular Monte Cristo is it's kind of a, it's a universal monster. You know, it's like if as long as you're having a good time with good people, it's going to go with it.
Before I open our next beer for the show, sorry about that. I didn't realize I was knocking your stuff over there. I want to point out that the Weller Special Reserve, ain't nothing wrong with that.
Well,
It's
Jeremiah was kind enough to pour some that he brought along during the break, and we've been enjoying it.
That is, by the way,
goes very, very well with this cigar, by the way.
a $20-ish bottle.
I believe I paid $21.98 before tax.
And it is
No, guys, you're
outstanding.
wrong. That bottle was really expensive. People don't want to go buy a bunch of those.
Oh, true, yes. Don't go buy
because
this,
they're
'cause-
so pricey. They must be $80, $90 a bottle.
The last stanchion of hope for bourbon drinkers is the $21 Weller.
Well, we all
It
remember.
is absolutely fantastic, though. Like, for $20, that's one of the best whiskeys
No,
out
and
there.
it's a great value.
It does
Great.
not drink like a $20
No,
whiskey.
no.
Not at all.
And you can get it. So, you know.
So
there's that.
Ian has opened up what may be a bottle of beer that was more expensive than the Wellers, than the whiskey. But it's not a large bottle. It's not a bomber. But it is part of this Advanced Oak series that Drake's does. I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, but the last one of these Drake's that we had was the last time you were on. It was the Island Diaries,
which we
and
all
we
raved.
loved that beer.
Amazing beer.
So these are oak aged, and this one is a Belgian Quintuple. So
Also, Chris, if you're watching this and you see me pouring this rather hard, there's almost no CO2 in this at all.
So we were talking. The reason he brought this up is we were on Chris's show,
We talked about
which
the
is
aggressive
Whiskey
beer
Neat,
pouring,
which is
yeah.
a great show. We recommend it highly. Chris, despite the fact that nobody cares about him, is our good friend, and he was talking about how.
Well, I mean, he's a friend. I don't know if I'd say good. He's a friend.
Okay, he's a friend.
Whoa, whoa,
Yeah,
whoa.
he's an acquaintance. But
I met the guy.
We were talking about how he has taken some critique for being an aggressive pour
Sure.
when it comes to beer. He likes to pour it where it has a bit of the foam and the head on the top. And he's had some people tell him, no, you shouldn't do it that way. And his response was, but doesn't that release all the flavor? And so then we got into a very long discussion on
Well, at the end
Chris's
of the
show
day,
about that.
Some
My
of the
whole response is
carbonation
just,
he
you
wants
know,
to release.
Hush it. I want to drink how I drink.
That's true. I gave him a rash just because I thought it was funny.
Yes.
So.
So that was the reference. So
Am I
you
the only
let out
one
a-
that gets like beef bouillon out of
You
this?
let out a whoop when you took the first nose on
That
this.
smells so savory.
Well, beef bouillon, I don't know if I would have said it, but you're so right.
Like, that is
You're
a
so right.
savory nose.
Is this a beer or a soup?
This it's a barley soup.
It's a barley soup. Well, Ian,
It smells amazing.
I've been holding on to this because I knew you were going to love it. And by the way, speaking of things that you're going to love, guess what I picked up for next week's show? And I don't know which of these to bring.
Don't district me yet.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
I'm
all right. I'll
Like
hold
this
on.
is so good.
I
I
need a
want
moment.
Yeah.
I want to wear this like cologne. This is so delicious. Beef bouillon, like it literally has like that big savory wonderfulness. Yeah, like
If you were to drink some beef stock, but at the end it was to give you these wonderful dried fruit notes
oh my
and
gosh,
be very
yeah.
boozy all the while, that's what this would
Wow. That is so different so much more approachable on the palate than I thought it was going to be by the nose.
Weighing in at 14.5%, Quint will inspire you to hunt for great whales and compare scars. Rich, tart, slightly spiced, the Quintuple is layered with coriander, honey, orange zest, and the juice of 10,000 cherries.
be. So
Careful.
That's what it is. The tart
This
cherry.
This beer may bite you in the butt. Yeah, see, I didn't recognize
careful,
As
this beer
soon
may
as
bite you
you
in the butt.
Yes, it's
But
careful.
as soon as you
beer may
say cherry.
yeah, so there is a tartness to the end, and I couldn't recognize it until I read
But
that.
I also love the fact the whole whale hunting, so we've
Right.
brought it all the way back to the pirates.
Back to the pirates. And,
Yarg.
Jeremiah, you and I have talked about this.
Pirates?
That you and I are both fans of the story.
Yes.
Whether it's
At length,
whiskey,
yeah.
whether it's
Doesn't matter.
rum, whether it's a beer
Beer.
like this. And even though some of that story obviously is,
For sure.
just interesting writing on
Yeah.
the part of their guys, I love it. It makes me enjoy the beer more with now visions of whale hunting dancing in my head, even though I would never hunt a whale.
Here's the thing that here's a plus
When
and
in
minus.
Rome.
I have a bottle of this in my refrigerator. Okay,
Yeah.
And now that I've tasted this, that bottle's going to stay in there for at least a year.
Oh, I was going to say, will you have the bottle tomorrow now that you've tasted this? But
No,
you're
now
saying,
now I
you're
have
saying
to let
you're keeping it longer.
Now I have to let it rest for a year and see
Wow.
what happens.
Wow. Very
That's going to be that is so good. It is so
really
rich.
delicious. Yes.
Like the flavors on it are so rich. This would go with a good bacon, a good steak.
Bacon at B&B. Man.
Absolutely.
Well, I just want to say that this is another example of, we try to sample really different kinds of beers on the show. The strawberry lager from Abita that we had at the beginning of the show. Perfect beer for, throwing a bunch of them in the cooler and enjoying them on a Sunday or you know what I mean? Like perfect beer for like just having a few on a warm afternoon. This is the kind of beer we talk about that you want to open when you have a friend or friends, and you want to be able to sit and talk about it. It's
Yes.
a conversation piece. This beer.
So apparently Quint is a Jaws reference. Wiki Brian put up there.
Yeah.
That's I didn't.
Not
know.
with 3, he can't.
Oh, I didn't realize.
So
that.
now I thought it was just because it was a
Because it's a quintuple, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, but it's a Jaws reference.
And it does have the big dorsal fin sticking up out of the water.
So, Jaws question for you guys. Has either of you actually made it all the way through Jaws 3?
There's a Jaws 3.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. That's
And Jaws 3D.
Yeah.
But no, after
Sharknado, yes. Jaws 3, we don't talk about it.
But even the second Jaws. Come on.
All right, so
Dennis Quaid.
So let's get this straight. We had a Marilyn Manson reference, a Kenny Rogers reference, and a Sharknado reference. This particular show has just advanced to epic.
There's so
Marilyn
many
Manson
hashtags going on
Yes.
in this show.
Weren't Marilyn Manson and Kenny Rogers in Sharknado? Weren't they cameos?
In a perfect world, the answer to that question would be yes.
Everybody was a kid. By the time they got to Sharknado 4, everyone was doing cameos.
That's right, everybody, because it was just too good to resist.
Oh,
too good,
man. It became
you couldn't
so
resist it.
tongue-in-cheek. How did that thing take off? It was crazy.
Like the fact that there was a movie made called Sharknado is just hilarious.
The fact that, it went haywire.
Well, look at I've been reading all these things recently about how Keanu Reeves is the actor of our generation because he's gone past being ironic now, and just like the fact that he's endured and become a thing has made him more than just what. But anyway, the point is about the John Wick movies. They're so terrible as to be good.
Well,
that's called craptastic.
Whoa.
Okay, so so we just insulted a John Wick guy. Here we go.
But here's the thing about John Wick. Anytime you're it's a movie based on a graphic novel / comic. You don't expect. I'm not looking for Citizen Kane when I go see John Wick.
Adam is just shaking his head. By the way, I thought that was I wish we'd had that on camera.
But I will say that the crazy thing about Keanu Reeves is think about how groundbreaking from an action perspective both of the trilogies he's been a part of. Say what you will about The Matrix now. At the time, it was cutting edge, the bullet time photography and the special effects and the way that the actors trained in martial arts. And now it's this whole I don't know what they call that gun martial art that he does, but it's got a name.
The whole thing where the bullets slow down. That was the first movie to do
absolutely.
that. I will say, he's about to have his third trilogy. Because Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure...
And I support the San Dimas High School football rules.
Segment 3 will be out, I think, next year. No, I will say, to me, my favorite Keanu Reeves moment was actually during Toy Story 4. In Toy Story 4, he plays the Evel Knievel-style stunt-jumping motorcycle dude. And so in all of the craziness of Toy Story 4, Tom Hanks' voice and all the different people that are in this, they manage towards the end of the movie, which is brilliantly written, by the way, and a must-see. It's a great film. Sure. At the end, when the motorcycle dude, voiced by Keanu Reeves, finally goes, "Whoa." It's a wonderful, wonderful moment. And to me, that was when Keanu Reeves finally, okay, now I get it.
And harkens back to the moment in the first Matrix when they upload the thing and then he snaps awake and he's like, I know Kung Fu.
I don't know. He's either the worst actor of our generation or the best. There is no other choice.
He's an American treasure. There's no question about that. I mean, like, the guys like him and like Kurt Russell, where you're just like, I don't even know how this works.
And
but
Gary
it works.
Busey.
And Gary Busey.
Well, old Gary Busey.
Old Gary Busey. Yeah.
He's gone a little
Pre-accident Gary Busey.
Like his role in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas
it's
as
brilliant.
the highway patrolman.
Brilliant.
I get
Listen,
so lonely out here.
if you have the stomach for it, go back and find how you can stream the season of Celebrity Apprentice that Gary Busey is on. Because not only will you get vintage President Donald Trump before he was president,
Sure.
you will get Gary Busey that you just will not be able to believe. And one of my favorite people in the world, Penn Jillette's on there. So,
Absolutely.
so it's,
See, I was thinking,
it's definitely worth watching.
DC Cab, but you
Yeah,
know,
well, DC Cab is, you know.
I'm aging myself with that one.
Yeah, and I will point out, we've had more wonderful rabbit holes on this show.
This show has been
It's been
all over the place,
glorious,
hasn't
like shotgun.
What is
spray
that
for
in your
sure.
hand, by the way?
So I figured since like we have to get to the
If I
point.
may, let's announce the sniff, because I promised we were going to do it earlier, and we
Yes.
didn't. The whiskey sniff has been solidified for 2019.
We're
it
ready.
will take place upstairs at B&B Butchers and Restaurant.
Indeed.
And it will be on the Wednesday, the 6th of November.
Yes.
And we're very excited about it this year. Not only do we already have, it was, the first year was great last year. We had
Phenomenal.
such a good time, but the reports that came out of it and how much fun people had.
And how many people regretted not being able
Right.
to get there.
We're so good that people started clamoring to be a part of it for this year, really almost before the event was over last year. And so we will have, I don't know, half again as many spirits
I believe
available.
we've doubled it. Maybe even a couple more than
Oh,
doubled.
that's just music to my ears.
And we're going to expand the area. So we've already worked out a plan for where upstairs
we will be
people
doing the entire upstairs
The
this
entire
time, as
which will
opposed
include
to-
the indoor area.
Indeed.
Now,
Which you can't smoke inside. Please don't walk in with your cigars. I'm putting that out there now.
Right. So here's what we got planned, just so you know. We will have a lot of the spirits set up inside, and the outdoor area will be basically the cigar lounge
Indeed.
area.
The whole upper terrace will be reserved for the cigar lounge.
So there'll be plenty of room to smoke. You'll come in, you'll get your bag of cigars, you'll light up whatever you want to light up, you'll smoke it, and then true to what the whiskey sniff is all about, you'll be able to go and sniff your whiskeys. Now, Ian, the whiskey sniff came from your ritual that you have when you're at home and you've lit a cigar and you smoke it how far? Maybe like quarter of an inch in or
Yeah, I
so?
usually get into the first third of the cigar, about an inch into the cigar, past the initial light, which the initial light on a cigar a lot of times is a little different than
Right, you get a
the
little more
overall
pepper,
flavor.
you get a little more, right, it kind of settles down.
But basically, it's very subjective. So you basically you light your cigar and you smoke it to the point where you get that flavor on your palate.
Yes.
And once you have the cigar flavor on your palate, then it's a very easy thing to walk into your whiskey collection and pop the tops and just give them a smell and go and let your palate basically decide what's going to go with that cigar. And it's so easy to do. And it's constantly evolving because, say, for instance, I light a cigar and I go sniff my whiskeys and I decide, hey, that Glenfiddich 14 is going to go really well with this. And I drink a small glass of it. See, I don't drink big glasses of whiskey when I'm doing this because this is so evolving. I take a taste and I pour a small glass of it and I enjoy it. And then I'm inevitably done with my whiskey way before I'm done with my cigar. So then I go in. Well, now I have
Now you
both
sniff
of those
again.
both
Right.
of those flavors on my palate, and I go smell my whiskey again. There's going to be another whiskey that's going to match it, and it just smells right with the cigar. It's a really interesting way to do it. It's just something that I came up with that made sense to me, and I can't believe we turned it into
and
a thing.
you called it, before
Yeah.
we had an event, you called it the
we
whiskey
called it
sniff.
the whiskey sniff. Yeah,
So-
me and my brother came up with this. We used to talk on the phone a lot. He lives in Arizona, and so I would be on the phone chatting with him while I was doing this, and somehow between me and him, we came up with the name Whiskey Sniff, and that
So-
just became a thing.
So just to clarify, when you're doing the whiskey sniff at home, before there was an event, you've smoked the first third or so of your cigar, and then you actually leave your outdoor area, you walk inside
Yes.
to where your whiskeys are, and you do the sniff.
Yes.
So we're going to recreate that.
Trying to come up with
at
a
this
much
year's
closer
whiskey
approximation
sniff.
of
So
what you do.
We'll have the outdoor area where everyone can choose what cigar they want to smoke, light it up, smoke the first bit of it,
Set it
and then
down.
they go into the area. And in fact, Jeremiah, if this is okay, we're going to have a sign made as people walk into the indoor area that will say Ian's living room.
That'd be
And
awesome.
And we'll walk into Ian's living room where we'll have all of these spirits, even more than what Ian has in his bar at home. And one of the things we learned from the first whiskey sniff is we'll have all of them will have little samples poured out into Glencairns to make it easy
So that-
to do the sniff, so that you can really figure out what you want next.
Yes.
You'll do the sniff, and then you'll walk back out, and after you've gotten a little taste of that, and you'll walk back out to enjoy it with your cigar. Now, one of the things that will make this possible, and you may want to think about this for your living room as well, Ian, is that we will have cigar girls posted at the entrance who can hold your cigar for you while you go in. How great is that?
I do need to do that at my house.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great?
Because I just use an ashtray.
Right, but think
What was
how
I
cool-
thinking?
How much cooler it would be.
We're working on cigar girls.
We'll find some. I'm sure.
We're definitely on it, but I'm also like, as we talk about it out loud, I'm like, man, I don't know. Some lady with like 5 cigars on a tray right under her nose is gonna be like, you don't pay me enough for this.
Well,
It's all the cigar smokes just going on her face.
Or she's gonna turn around and be like, oh, you picked Lafroig 10, rookie.
Posted, the sound quality is excellent. Congrats on doing things the right way. Bravo. I like to attribute the sound quality of today's show to my wireless microphone.
I knew you were going
because
there.
the last time when you guys were live on
Yes.
location, you had issues with sound. I didn't have my wireless mic with me,
that's true.
so I just.
Well, to be fair, you weren't there, so I feel like it was just sort of overall the universe
I was actually there on Facebook though.
Well, I mean, you're always there in spirit with us.
One of the things that is really interesting about the Whiskey Sniff is that we're going to have not only will Whistle Pig
Yeah,
be
Eric,
participating this year.
Ian, this is
That's for Adam there.
this is Adam's whistle pig right here.
Yes. Not only will Whistle Pig be participating, but you're going to have a very special Whistle Pig available for the sniff. Well, it'll be available at B&B
It'll
and
be
also available
for purchase at B&B coming soon. But we announced not too long ago we got our first barrel of Whistle Pig. So Stephanie Maxwell, phenomenal steward of that brand. Not only do I just enjoy sitting down and talking to her as a human, but she knows her whiskey upside down, backwards.
We love Stephanie. I mean, she's the greatest.
Just an amazing steward
yes.
of that brand and American whiskey in general.
One of the things about her is that she spent so much time traveling in our region with Dave Pickrell.
Absolutely.
Sometimes people may have not gotten the appropriate chance to talk to her because Dave Pickrell's there. So, like, you're
absolutely
talking to Dave, you don't realize maybe how knowledgeable she is and what she knows about
what
whiskey.
She does. So this is our single barrel pick of the Whistle Pig 10-year.
So this will be arriving at B&B when?
Sometime in the next 3 weeks-ish.
Okay. And you'll make sure you have some left for us for the...
oh, absolutely.
for the
well, I got a whole barrel, so that's a lot. I don't know if you've seen a barrel.
That is
big.
the ryeest thing
I was
ever.
going to say.
Yeah.
We're
so,
going to do
rye.
some ryeness here.
And the beautiful thing about when you buy the barrel is you get to keep it at the proof. So this is actually at 119
Love
and
Wow.
a little change.
Do we speak your language in the final segment, Ian, or what?
This is lovely. I do want to point out. Do you see the bottom of my glass there with the? No, this is not the Whistle Pig. This is the Quint.
Oh, the Quint, yes.
Yes. Do you see the sediment in the bottom of the glass?
I don't know if it's chewy or not, but yes, I do see the sediment. Yeah, but okay. So the Quint was wonderful at what, about 15%?
It was amazing.
Like
Absolutely
really amazing. And now some overproofed Whistle Pig.
Well, and I feel like if you drink a beer like the Quint, you have to follow that up
with something big.
It's got to be big.
Yeah.
And it's got and so anytime
wow.
When I sit down to pick barrels,
this is definitely a BBW, a big beautiful whiskey.
You know, I have I've talked about it on the show, and I mentioned it when we did Chris's show. Is it's interesting when you pick barrels because getting your own palate out of the way is a challenge.
Meaning that you have to pick something that you feel like your customers are going to want,
like
as opposed to
everyone,
just something
me.
that
I'm not drinking the barrel, so it's easy for me to sit down and be like, "Boom, 123.9, let's go."
Yeah,
that's the one I want.
So you would know that Ian would come to the bar.
Absolutely, but one thing I've learned over the evolution, now that I've been afforded the opportunity to purchase many single barrels at this point, and there's more to come in the spring.
By the way, can I just say,
all of us.
your Elijah Craig barrel?
Amazing.
Oh, man. I have it every time I come to B&B.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so delicious.
I'm almost out of it. We're
and it's
getting
completely
to the tail end
completely different from this, by the way.
Oh,
I think,
yes.
Was that what we were destroying the last time?
Yes,
and you
it was.
went
Yeah,
up?
when you guys were up on the terrace.
Oh,
yeah.
my
Pretty
gosh.
sure that's the reason he's almost out.
Oh, my
Yeah,
gosh,
it
that's
might
so
be.
good.
But so when you pick the barrel with this one, it was what is the best example of the Whistle Pig 10 that was put in front of me? And this was an intense tasting. I mean, I literally tasted through 10 or 12 barrels in half an hour.
Wow.
I mean, and one of those, and another example, hey, by all means, I do not, when I taste on that level, I'm spitting,
Right,
responsible consumption.
Right, because you want to be able to be, when you get to those later ones,
Absolutely.
you don't want to
Coherent.
be, you don't want to be like everything's good.
This is great. I want another
Greatest
one.
whiskey I've ever had.
Yeah, and so
right.
you're at that at that point, I'm also tasting. I don't think anything I tasted was below 108 or something.
Right.
That'll burn your tongue.
It gets you, and so but with this one, I actually towards the latter part of it, I got our GM Keith Garver involved, and we sat and we tasted through a bunch of rye. And this was the one. It was universal. I even took it blind to a couple of people with a couple of the other examples, and it won
hands
universally.
down. Yeah.
It's heavy, but it's approachable. I guarantee you, with a little bit of ice, as this kind of waters down, it's going to start to get that sweet rye quality. You'll still get the spice in the back, but it's going to be really, really neat.
So good
To have this at the Sniff, that people can come and actually try something that literally they can't get anywhere else.
And one of the wonderful things about the Sniff, and I don't think we've set the ticket price for it yet, but it'll be reasonable. But no matter what that ticket price is, no matter what that ticket price is, the idea of being able to sample the caliber of spirits you'll be able to sample
the lineup
at
for
this
this
thing
year is insane.
I mean, there's no way you could do it for that price. There's no way.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
crazy. I mean, I'll just throw some names out there because I can't without putting anybody else at
Fair enough.
We'll have Four Roses. We'll have William Grant and all the Balvinis and Glenfiddichs and Tullamores and all their beautiful portfolio.
Amazing.
We're going to have the Beam Suntory crew is going to show up.
Awesome.
Fernandez. Maybe I can get Krockenberger or Adam to come out.
I love that.
Adam is one of the greatest ambassadors. He won Ambassador of the Year. I mean, the guy's phenomenal at what he does. So we'll have all the Beam Suntory, the makers, the knobs, the bookers.
Nice.
I'm sure we'll have some crazy Lafroigs and maybe some Habikis. I know for sure we're going to have I'm hoping that they're released. And Mike, if he's watching, will yell at me, but I'd like to have the Woodford Straight Series. They're about to release they're about to be the only distillery that I know of that has a full straight line where they're going to have a straight rye, a straight bourbon, a straight malt, and a straight wheat.
Nice.
That is phenomenal. But yeah, some big boys. There's some people that we haven't talked to, that we're reaching out to. But I think this year is going to be my goal. Like I told you yesterday, my goal is to have it be so big this year that next year we can't have it at B&B. We gotta go get a space.
And that
we had, I got to tell you, last year when I was up, because your outside deck is 2 levels.
Sure.
And I was standing up on that higher level, and I just turned around and looked, and I just saw this sea of faces, people smoking cigars, trying whiskey. Everybody was just
happy.
smiling and happy.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was so fun.
Having been to a few events, this seemed like the friendliest and most fun event. We talk about all the time about the Houston Whiskey Social and how much we love that and how it is like the gold standard.
Yes, sure. Absolutely.
For those kind of events. And I still believe that 100%, and you really should buy tickets to that and go. But the Whiskey Sniff,
tickets are on sale for that,
yes, they are,
Yes.
by the way. So HoustonWhiskeySocial.com, I believe.
Yes.
But the Whiskey Sniff is really a different kind of event, and there's something about it that is just really, I don't know, it's really mellow and fun.
Yes.
Like that's how the first year came off anyway.
Well, the goal is to keep that. I mean, that's the whole idea behind. I feel like that's like the vision of what Ian has, is you want everyone to feel like you're just hanging out in the back porch.
What happens is a lot of people walk in, they're not entirely sure what to expect. And when you explain it to them, yes, it actually is that casual. You start your cigar, you go in and you just sniff the whiskey, and the one that smells nice to you. You don't have to try everything. You can get to it. You can finish your cigar and go try anything you want. But frankly, the whole goal of this is to match that whiskey with the cigar and just enjoy that experience. And you're not required to do anything.
Right.
Yeah,
it's
there are no
just
rules.
a hang. Yeah.
Yeah,
and you can do the whiskey sniff or not do the whiskey
Yeah,
sniff.
I mean,
Yeah,
if your
no.
goal
Yeah.
is to try every whiskey there, then, fine, you're going to be drunk. You're probably not going to enjoy the rest of your night or the next
Right.
morning because there's too many. But the bottom line is, and sometimes with the whiskey sniff, here's a funny thing. Like, a lot of people just gravitate towards the most expensive or rare.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's not like that, though. You smoke your cigar and you go, man, that Weller 12 is the right spot with this cigar because
Yeah.
I feel like last year that Four Roses single barrel.
that Four Roses
I was
so
just
good.
about to say.
It just
People
come
just
out.
kept
So
going
and
back
it was,
and
man,
back.
and
Yeah.
Nick, Four Roses will be there. Nick's
Yeah,
gonna bring a whole
so
bunch
good.
of stuff.
Yeah, Nick is awesome, and that whiskey is so like they're making such an incredibly good name for themselves. Like I just love those
Well,
guys.
There's something about doing it right.
Yeah.
and they're doing it on a scale that it's sustainable.
Yes,
They have some whiskeys that are obviously going to be more allocated
Mm-hmm.
than maybe their normal ones, but even those are still fairly available. I'm a huge proponent of the Four Roses. It's just a brand as a whole,
we love them.
and the story again. The story of Four Roses and how it came about, and the Four
Absolutely.
Roses that he left for the ball, and it's just a beautiful.
And
thing.
that book that they have is such a wonderful,
gorgeous.
gorgeous,
Absolutely
yeah,
gorgeous.
telling the story of what Four Roses is all
Yeah.
about. It's
I want
great.
to point out this Cohiba, this red dot here. This is a tiny cigar. This is it was probably 4.5.
Don't undersell
inches
the
by
size
a-
of your hands.
by a 38. They're just hands, man.
Big hands, big heart.
This is putting out. Look at the amount of smoke this thing. Just a puff.
Wow.
For a little guy, that is a lot.
Little tiny cigar. Look at the amount of smoke this puts out. This is an outstanding cigar. Thank you, Adam. By the way, this was a gift from Adam. When
I
I got
just
here.
wanted to mention when you can find one of those little cigars, one of the ones that maybe comes in
Yeah.
the tin,
Smoking perfectly.
and it's really, really good.
Yeah.
As opposed to just okay, I can have a cigar.
No.
that's a thing.
This is outstanding.
That's a thing. Well, this really has been one of the more interesting shows in a while. We've not only gone down more rabbit holes, but we've tasted a really wide and different variety of things, and we've found really all of them to be good in their own cool and interesting way. And that's mine for the Weller. Thank you. It's been. I was going to say, wow. I finished my Whistle Pig first, but I think you actually beat me to that.
I cannot tell you how excited I am about this
Whistle
barrel
Pig
of
is so
whiskey to
good.
show up.
Yes,
man.
it really is. So we're really excited about the sniff. More details coming on this. We promise that the ticket price
Yeah,
will be
we'll
as
have
reasonable as we
we'll
can
have
make
the
it.
event- And
Yes.
the one thing with the ticket price, to be honest, I looking back at last year, I think it'll actually be right in line.
Yes.
And with the people that we've added, and I mean, I'll even throw out a couple of teasers. I can't. These are all subject to change sometimes, but I feel like having some cool ones like if hopefully we'll get Cavalon.
Mm-hmm.
Just some of the other stuff. We're gonna have Brown Foreman, not just Woodford, but I'm hoping to get the Prohibitions from Old Forester.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Like that 1920 is one of the most amazing bottles. Like speaking of value,
We did the Prohibition Ale, or the Prohibition, not ale, Prohibition whiskey.
the Old
A while
Forester
back, yeah.
1920.
So
It's like
good.
$28 a bottle, and it's
Yep.
so available,
Yes.
and it comes at 115 proof. It's amazing stuff.
And we
So-
we haven't had a chance to talk to them yet because this is just announced, but we will be inviting Garrison Brothers.
Absolutely.
And that's really excited about
They're
that
so
too
good.
because
yeah,
they're
here,
so
I have,
good
I,
and
I
they're
have
so.
my cheat sheet.
You
and
know,
I'll-
we got to
love
talk
it.
to Mr. Whitmire too.
Definitely. So, and then hopefully we'll get Dan down because we're gonna have some Glenmorangies out
So,
there
yeah.
for sure.
Amazing.
Yeah. Dan Kroll, if you're watching the show, please just circle that date on your calendar and reserve it
Yes.
now. And I would say the same thing would go for Allardyce too. If
Yes,
you're
Yeah,
If
no,
you're watching
you,
this
you,
show.
you leave Willie G to us.
Okay.
Man. We'll get Paradise and maybe Jack from Tully, and we'll get some guys down. But for me, the biggest thing is having those people that are approachable, that like know the spirits. They know the idea of what we're doing. and just making it as comfortable and casual and warm as possible. At the end of the day,
Absolutely.
it's a bunch of friends smoking cigars and drinking whiskey. Man.
Yes.
Well, I have to say, this has been one of my favorite shows that we've done in a long time. I've just really loved just hanging and smoking and drinking with you guys.
Just about to say, it's been more like a hangout session.
And to be honest, that's kind of what the original vision for the show always was. And, sometimes we have the opportunity to introduce people to something new or really showcase something cool, and we love doing that, whether it's beers or whiskeys or rums or whatever it is, or aquavit. But this has just been a great deal of fun. So thank you, Jeremiah, for being on the show.
Thank you guys for having me.
You rock, baby.
And just, by the way, thank you to you and to B&B for being a sponsor of the show.
Absolutely.
This is it's just been a wonderful partnership, and it's only going to get better. And I know you got other things coming that you'll be able to talk about soon in the future.
There's a big one up my sleeve that I can't wait to talk about, and when we get there, we'll talk at length.
We've been just teasing that it exists and nothing more, but it's going to be exciting.
It's a whisper right now.
Thank you to you guys for checking out the show and for following us, whether you listen to us on Apple Podcasts or whether you are on the Android side of things at Google Play, or whether you watch the show live on Facebook or check us out on YouTube. One of the things we would ask for you is if you enjoy the show and you have friends you think would, please share it with them. We appreciate it.
Yes, please share. Hit the share button, hit the
shout
like
out
button.
to Adam behind the glass.
Yes, thank you so much, Adam, on the Wheels of Steel. And thank you to everybody who provided the
Casa
fine
de Monte Cristo.
spirits. And yes, absolutely. These guys are awesome, and they're one of our favorites. We appreciate it. Thanks to Wiki Brian for keeping us straight. And I genuinely enjoy hanging out with you guys.
Absolutely.
Which is what makes this all so
Cheers,
fun.
gentlemen.
Thank you, and cheers.
Punch.